Chapter 2170. 2170 Escalated Situation. 2170 Escalated Situation. Su Zimo had not expected that after joining the Heaven and Earth Academy, he would still be targeted even after going into seclusion for 1,000 years. However, he could not figure out where the hostility came from. On what basis? Princess Scarlet Rainbow felt indignant for Su Zimo. Steward Chen and Lu Wenbin were the ones who violated the Academy's rules first. What did Su Zimo do wrong? The Academy's rules forbid disciples from fighting in private. That alone is enough to teach him a lesson by letting him be a servant for a few years. Elder Tang waved his hand and said coldly, "Take Su Zimo, Chen Shang and Lu Wenbin down with you. They will train in the servants' area for a few years before they're allowed to return." Just as Princess Scarlet Rainbow was about to speak, Elder Tang glared at her and said, "Although you have a noble status, don't forget that this is Heaven and Earth Academy, not the Yen-Yang Immortal Kingdom. If you disrupt the Academy's law enforcement, you'll be punished as well." Princess Scarlet Rainbow frowned and was enraged. She ground her canine teeth and glared at Elder Ting fiercely. As a princess, she was scolded in front of everyone. She had never suffered such grievances before. However, she knew in her heart that the people of the Academy did not care about her status as a princess. If she persisted, Elder Tang would definitely chase her out of the outer sect to become a servant as well. If news of this were to spread to the Yen-Yang Immortal Kingdom, she would become the laughingstock of the royal family. Princess Scarlet Rainbow's face alternated between shades of green and white. Although she wanted to speak up for Su Zimo, she had her reservations. Right then, a gentle voice sounded from the side. "Thank you for speaking up, Princess. I'll handle this matter." Princess Scarlet Rainbow glanced sideways and caught sight of Su Zimo's calm and gentle gaze. For some reason, her mind gradually calmed down as well. Su Zimo's words made her feel better. Without saying anything more, she pursed her lips and nodded. Su Zimo turned to look at Elder Tang and said slowly, "Elder Tang, if I attack you now in the Academy and you retaliate, will it be considered a private fight and a violation of the Academy's rules?" The surrounding cultivators shook their heads when they heard that. This was a direct challenge to the authority of the disciplinary elder. Although everyone knew that Su Zimo was completely innocent in this matter, he had just joined the sect not long ago and was only an outer sect disciple. Furthermore, many cultivators had heard that Su Zimo came from the lower worlds. Someone of his status was asking for trouble by challenging the disciplinary elder. Foo-foo. Suddenly, Elder Tang laughed and looked at Su Zimo with disdain and mockery. He said proudly, "Su Zimo, do you know what a disciplinary elder is? If you dare to attack me, it's equivalent to challenging the rules of the Academy. I have every reason to kill you on the spot. You won't even get the chance to be a servant." "Is that so?" Su Zimo smiled as well and said coldly, "If I attack you, you won't even get a chance to retaliate." Pest. A commotion broke out in the surrounding crowd. "Isn't that person way too arrogant?" "I don't think he's arrogant. There's something wrong with his head. How can an outer sect disciple who ascended from the lower worlds be qualified to challenge the disciplinary elder? Furthermore, Elder Tang is a heaven immortal. How dare an earth immortal like him act so brazenly? He truly doesn't know what's good for him." Many cultivators looked at Su Zimo as though they were looking at a dying man. Most of the cultivators in the outer sect had only heard of Su Zimo's name and this was their first time meeting him. They had no relationship with him at all. Although they knew that Su Zimo was being targeted, none of them pitied him. "Ha ha ha ha." Elder Tang was so angry that he laughed instead and said murderously, "Capture him and kick him out of the Academy. I don't even want to dirty my hands by killing you, lowlife. You've already offended the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. There's no need for me to do anything. If Su Zimo dares to resist, kill him on the spot." Su Zimo had a calm expression and said indifferently, "Elder Tang, I'm afraid you can't make the decision to kick me out of the sect." Naturally, Su Zimo had his own reasons for being so calm. The 10,000-year meet was about to begin and Heaven and Earth Academy valued the ranking of the Earth ranking so much. Unless he had committed a heinous crime, they would definitely not chase him out of the Academy at this time. Su Zimo was not worried that this matter would blow up. In fact, he hoped that news of this matter would spread to the inner sect. Initially, Steward Chen and Lu Wenbin were the ones who made things difficult for him. If Elder Tang's unfair enforcement of the law caused a huge ruckus, he could find the source of the hostility and resolve the matter. When Elder Tang saw how calm Su Zimo was, he could not help but sneer. It's no wonder why a lowlife like you is fearless. So, there is someone backing you. Let me tell you, even if Yang Ruoxu comes today, he won't be able to protect you. Attack! Elder Ting hollered. The few stewards behind him charged forward one after another. Just as the battle was about to begin, a tremendous spirit consciousness pressure descended from midair and froze the stewards on the spot. Elder Tang, what happened to make you so angry? A voice sounded slowly. The next moment, Yang Ruoxu flew through the air and descended in front of the Essence Spirit Pavilion. Greetings, Senior Brother Yang. Many outer sect disciples and the disciplinary elder bowed. Even Elder Tang's eyes flashed with a hint of panic as he forced a smile. Although he was the disciplinary elder, he was only an outer sect disciplinary elder and could not control Yang Ruoxu at all. Over the years, Yang Ruoxu cultivated at lightning speed and his status in the inner sect rose rapidly as well. Yang Ruoxu was even sent to several immortal sect selections to recruit Paragon disciples from all over the place. It was clear how highly they thought of him. Of course, Yang Ruoxu's combat strength was not top tier in the inner sect and could only be ranked in the top 10. Under normal circumstances, he was not qualified to host a major event like the Immortal Sect selection. Many cultivators did not know why Yang Ruoxu was so highly regarded. It was only when Fairy Mo Qing appeared at the Immortal Sect selection 1,000 years ago to protect Yang Ruoxu, and even nearly fought against Zither Immortal Meng Yao that some people realized what was going on. After the Immortal Sect selection, many rumors about Fairy Mo Qing and Yang Ruoxu spread and it was difficult to tell if they were true. However, if Yang Ruoxu truly had the backing of painting Immortal Mo Qing, it would make sense why he was highly regarded in the inner sect. The matter of Fairy Mo Qing and Yang Ruoxu did not only spread in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. The entire Nine Firmament was shaken and the rumors became more exaggerated. Even in the academy, many cultivators did not dare to discuss it openly and had many guesses in private. Although Zither Immortal Meng Yao returned fruitless at the Immortal Sect selection back then, the rumor had indeed spread. She had already achieved her goal. Chapter 2171 2171 Sword Discourse Arena 2171 Sword Discourse Arena. Yang Ruoxu was still wearing a white robe. His face was defined and his skin was slightly dark. He glared at Elder Tang with a deep gaze and a dignified expression. Su Zimo was relieved when he saw Yang Ruoxu. He had a good impression of this senior brother of the inner sect. There was naturally a hint of familiarity in his heart because Yang Ruoxu was also from the lower worlds. Furthermore, back in the Immortal Sect selection, it was Yang Ruoxu's integrity and persistence that allowed him to break free from Prince Yuan's pursuit and join the academy. Given senior brother Yang's character, he would definitely not stand by idly if he knew the entire situation. This time round, before Su Zimo and Elder Tang could speak, Princess Scarlet Rainbow stood out and recounted the matter in a few words. The truth of the matter was not complicated. Elder Tang, as an outer sect disciplinary elder, your decision earlier was inappropriate. Yang Ruoxu said, in Heaven and Earth Academy, if the law enforcement is unfair, how are we going to convince the masses and reassure the disciples of the academy? Elder Ting smiled embarrassedly and wanted to argue. However, when he met with Yang Ruoxu's gaze, his aura weakened instantly as he lowered his head and averted the latter's eyes. Yang Ruoxu cultivated the Righteousness Sutra and his eyes were filled with righteousness. He was unyielding and even dared to confront Zither Immortal Meng Yao. Elder Tang's cultivation realm was already inferior to Yang Ruoxu. Coupled with the fact that he was feeling guilty, he did not dare to say anything after being glared at by Yang Ruoxu. This time round, on account that you might have done it in a moment of foolishness, I won't hold it against you. Yang Ruoxu's eyes were bright as he looked at Elder Ting deeply, as though he could see through all his secrets. Otherwise, given your mistake this time round, it's enough to strip you of your position as the disciplinary elder. Why yes. Elder Tang was sweating profusely and his aura from earlier on was gone. He lowered his head obediently. Thank you for your forgiveness, Senior Brother Yang. I was indeed a little muddle-headed earlier on. Yang Ruoxu, you sure are impressive. Right then, a mocking voice sounded from a dare not far away. Immediately after, a figure descended. Many cultivators were shocked when they saw who it was and bowed one after another, shouting, "Greetings, Senior Brother Pang." The intruder wore blue robes and carried a long sword on his back. His black hair was tied simply behind his back and he had sword-like brows. The most striking thing about this person was his hands. His fingers were long and fair and he was born with a pair of hands that were meant to hold swords. After Su Zimo joined Heaven and Earth Academy, he entered seclusion for 1,000 years and did not have much interaction with the academy, so he naturally did not know this person. Princess Scarlet Rainbow sent a voice transmission with her spirit consciousness. This is an inner sect disciple, Pang Yu. He has a powerful background and is a sword cultivator. It's said that his combat strength can be ranked in the top 5 of the inner sect. He might even be stronger than Senior Brother Yang Ruoxu. Su Zimo nodded. After Pang Yu arrived, Elder Tung, who was bowing earlier on, was no longer obsequious. He puffed his chest and was invigorated. From the looks of it, there was a high chance that Elder Teng's backing was this inner sect disciple, Pang Yu. However, Su Zimo could not understand why he would have a feud with Pang Yu since he did not know the latter at all. Why was Pang Yu targeting him? Senior Brother Pang. When Yang Ruoxu saw Pang Yu, he cupped his fists expressionlessly. In the cultivation world, most people refer to others as senior brothers or junior brothers by their cultivation realms. If their cultivation realms were the same, it would be measured by how long they had been in the sect. Both of them were grade 9 Heaven Immortals, but Pang Yu had joined the sect for a longer time than Yang Ruoxu. Junior Brother Yang, you're only an inner sect disciple. Do you think the position of the Academy's disciplinary elder is something you can change casually? Pang Yu glared at Yang Ruoxu and said coldly. Indeed, I can't change it. Yang Ruoxu's expression was unchanged. However, if Elder Teng were to enforce the laws unfairly and I report it to the Academy, he won't be able to retain his position, right? It's not up to you whether or not he can retain it. Pang Yu sneered. Junior Brother Yang, don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. You're from the lower worlds and so is Su Zimo. That's why you're thinking of ways to protect him. This is the Academy and you're not even the number 1 of the inner sect, Yang Ruoxu. It's not your place to call the shots in the Academy. Senior Brother Pang, you're making things sound too serious. Yang Ruoxu replied indifferently, since there's such a huge controversy about this matter, why don't we report it to the Academy and ask the elders to make a decision? When he heard that, Elder Ting panicked. He knew this the best. Su Zimo was completely innocent in this matter. If it was reported to the Academy, he would be the one punished. At that time, as Yang Ruoxu had said, he might not even be able to retain his position as the disciplinary elder. Pang Yu's expression darkened. He knew in his heart that he would only embarrass himself if this matter was reported to the Academy. Right then, Elder Teng rolled his eyes and suddenly said, Senior brothers, please don't spoil your relationship. The affairs of the outer sect are just small matters. It's nothing much. In my opinion, let's forget about this matter. Elder Teng said with a smile. Pausing for a moment, he changed the topic and looked at Su Zimo, who was not far away. However, I have a personal feud with Su Zimo. That person boasted shamelessly earlier that I wouldn't even get the chance to retaliate if he fought me. All the cultivators present heard that clearly. I heard it. Immediately, some cultivators in the crowd cheered. Elder Tang had a stern expression as he said in a deep voice. It's fine if you disrespect my position as the disciplinary elder if you think that I had enforced the laws unfairly. However, I won't allow you to provoke and underestimate my many years of cultivation like this. Su Zimo raised his brow slightly and looked at Elder Teng. So, what do you want, Elder Teng? This is a personal feud between us and has nothing to do with the rules of the Academy. I don't need to use my status as the disciplinary elder to suppress you. Elder Teng said righteously, however, you spoke rudely. Let's compete on the sword discourse arena. Shameless. When she heard that, Princess Scarlet Rainbow cursed internally. Many cultivators in the surroundings revealed looks of disdain. Although Elder Teng phrased it nicely, his cultivation realm was that of a grade 1 Heaven Immortal while Su Zimo was only a grade 8 Earth Immortal. The two of them were a major cultivation realm apart. Although it was clear that he was bullying the weak, he made it sound upright. Yang Ruoxu frowned slightly. Elder Tang, the difference in cultivation between the two of you is too great. There's no need for this competition, right? We can do without competing, sure. Elder Ting smiled. If Su Zimo comes over obediently and bow to apologize to me, I can forgive him. If he doesn't apologize, he'll have to take responsibility for everything he said. Elder Tang had sharp eyes and could long tell that given Su Zimo's personality and style of doing things, there was no way he would apologize in public. You have to accept punishment for spouting nonsense. Elder Tang looked at Su Zimo and sneered. This is the academy and life and death fights are not allowed on the sword discourse arena. Don't worry, I'll spare your life. However, I'll leave you an unforgettable lesson. Chapter 2172. 2172A Slapped. 2172A Slap. That's a good idea. Pang Yu nodded slightly with a smile. Well, I'll give you a choice. You can either apologize or head to the sword discourse arena to receive your lesson. Elder Ting's plan was foolproof. Even if Su Zimo apologized in public, he could say that Su Zimo was insincere and continue to make things difficult for him repeatedly. Fellow Taoist Su, it's fine to apologize to him. You won't lose anything either. When Princess Scarlet Rainbow saw Su Zimo standing silently, she thought that he was conflicted and could not make up his mind, so she sent a voice transmission with her spirit consciousness. At that moment, the commotion here attracted almost half of the outer sect disciples of the academy. In the eyes of everyone, although it was ugly and embarrassing to apologize in public, it was much better than being beaten up by a heaven immortal on the sword discourse arena. Right in front of everyone, Su Zimo suddenly smiled. Sure, let's head to the sword discourse arena. Su Zimo said with a smile. The surroundings went silent for a moment before a commotion broke out. Is Su Zimo crazy? That person is arrogant and conceited. I can already tell back at the Immortal sect selection. I reckon he hasn't suffered a setback before. Fufu, he's truly asking for trouble. He thought that he could salvage his dignity by not apologizing. However, he did not know that it would be even more embarrassing if he was beaten up by Elder Tang. Many outer sect disciples shook their heads. Those outer sect disciples had only heard of Su Zimo's name from some news of the Immortal sect selection and did not have a deep understanding of him. In fact, many people thought that the rumors of the Immortal sect selection were most likely exaggerated. Yang Ruoxu frowned slightly as well. He looked at Su Zimo sternly and asked in a deep voice, "Are you sure you want to go to the sword discourse arena?" According to the rules of the academy, private fights between disciples of the same sect could only be conducted on the sword discourse arena, and no one was allowed to interfere. On the sword discourse arena, divine powers and secret skills could be released as they wished. However, life and death battles were forbidden and essence spirit secret skills were not allowed. A fight between essence spirits was way too dangerous. Even if the victors won, their essence spirits would be severely injured. The academy did not want any disciples to be injured. Even so, if Elder Tang wanted to teach Su Zimo a lesson, he could beat the latter up severely and shatter his physical body. Earth Immortals could regrow severed limbs, but they were not at the level of blood rebirth yet. If his body was shattered to an irreparable state, it would be equivalent to losing his original body and he would have to look for another body. This was no longer a matter of losing face. Sure, I'll give it a try. Su Zimo shrugged his shoulders slightly, looking relaxed and nonchalant. His reaction naturally attracted the disdain of the outer sect disciples once more. However, Yang Ruoxu did not show any contempt. With a grim expression, he reminded again, "Don't think that you guys are only two cultivation realms apart. You have to understand that the difference between you guys is between an Earth Immortal and a Heaven Immortal. Heaven Immortal experts can." That's enough. Before Yang Ruoxu could finish, he was interrupted by the impatient Pang Yu. "Junior brother Yang, you're not the one going on the sword discourse arena. Why are you so nervous?" Pang Yu sneered, "Either apologize or fight on the sword discourse arena. Stop being wishy-washy." Although Yang Ruoxu did not finish, Su Zimo knew that he was reminding him that Heaven Immortal experts could release supreme divine powers. That was the greatest means and reliance of Heaven Immortal experts. However, although Su Zimo was a grade 8 Earth Immortal, his essence spirit realm had already reached the level of a grade 1 Heaven Immortal, and he could also release supreme divine powers. Yang Ruoxu did not continue speaking after being interrupted by Pang Yu. However, he was still looking at Su Zimo. Su Zimo nodded slightly and gave Yang Ruoxu a reassuring look. Yang Ruoxu felt relieved. He had witnessed Su Zimo's strength and potential personally during the Immortal Sect selection. Back in Coiling Dragon Valley, no one thought highly of this scholarly young man. Even the four of them did not think that this green-robed scholar could survive against the sabers of more than 100 fiendish execution guards. However, it was proven that all of them were wrong. Therefore, Yang Ruoxu believed in Su Zimo. However, he still did not know how Su Zimo, who was only an Earth Immortal, was going to deal with the power of a Heaven Immortal and the supreme divine power of one. "Let's go." With a relaxed expression, Su Zimo seemingly muttered to himself, "An unforgettable lesson, I'm really looking forward to it." "Ha ha ha ha." Elder Ting reared his head in laughter. "Don't worry, your wish will come true soon." Be it in the outer or inner sects, there were many sword discourse arenas. Naturally, the so-called sword discourse was not a simple sword competition. It was a spar between fellow sect mates. Before long, everyone arrived at the sword discourse arena closest to the outer sect's essence spirit pavilion. The commotion here even attracted some inner sect disciples passing by, and the surrounding crowd grew larger. In the academy, every single spar on the sword discourse arena would attract everyone's attention. This time round was the most special. That was because the difference in cultivation between the two people on the sword discourse arena was immense. One was an Earth Immortal and the other was a Heaven Immortal. One was an outer sect disciple and the other was an outer sect disciplinary elder. The sword discourse arena was made from a gigantic rock and had sufficient space for the two people in the spar to release their divine powers and secret skills wantonly. "Everyone, how many rounds do you think Elder Ting will take to win?" "That's not for sure. The main thing is to see how many rounds Elder Ting wants to go for. If Elder Ting wants to win quickly and releases his supreme divine power in the first round, Su Zimo will lose. Even a cat will not kill a mouse it's hunting right away. I reckon Elder Ting will spend some time playing with this person on the sword discourse arena." The surrounding cultivators discussed fervently. Su Zimo and Elder Ting had already ascended the sword discourse arena and stood facing one another. "Lad." Elder Ting looked at Su Zimo and could not suppress the excitement in his heart as he smiled. "Actually, I'm doing this for your own good. At least, you can survive after I teach you a lesson in the academy. If you behave as arrogantly as you did outside the academy, you would have died a long time ago." Su Zimo ignored Elder Ting. Instead, he looked in the direction of Yang Ruoxu and Pang Yu and asked loudly, "Can we begin the discourse? As long as you're on the sword discourse arena, you can start at any moment." Elder Ting burst into laughter. Before his laughter ended, Su Zimo vanished from his line of sight. "Watch out." The next moment, Pang Yu's voice exploded in his ears. At that moment, his heart seemed to have stopped beating. Elder Tang did not have time to think about why Su Zimo suddenly disappeared. He channeled his essence spirit with all his might and conjured hand seals with both hands, wanting to release a supreme divine power. Initially, he wanted to hold back. However, at that moment, he only wanted to survive. Yet, even with Pang Yu's reminder, he lost the initiative. Su Zimo used the true Dragon 9 flashes and crossed 100 feet. As though he had teleported, he descended beside Elder Tang and slapped the latter on the back. Bang! Flesh exploded and blood filled the skies. Chapter 2173. 2173 beat you to despair. 2173 beat you to despair. Although Elder Tang was a grade 1 Heaven Immortal, his body could not compare to the Green Lotus True Body. With the grade 10 Creation Green Lotus and the Thunderbone Strengthening, it could take on any Earth grade Connate Dermic treasure head-on without using any power of bloodline. Elder Ting's body could not withstand it at all. After Su Zimo closed in with a palm strike, his body was shattered and flesh splattered everywhere. Naturally, Su Zimo's essence spirit could also release supreme divine powers. However, there was no need. He would use the simplest and most direct method to get rid of Elder Tang and not waste time with him. As he had said initially, Elder Tang would not even have the chance to retaliate if he attacked. Su Zimo's attack was way too sudden. Apart from top heaven immortals such as Yang Ruoxu and Pang Yu who reacted, everyone else present was stunned. It was only when Elder Ting's body was destroyed that the crowd exclaimed. Heavens, Elder Tang was shattered by a single palm strike. It's too fast. Is it teleportation? It can't be teleportation. There's no divine power aura on the sword discourse arena. Furthermore, Su Zimo is only an earth immortal and can't release teleportation. Elder Tang was careless. His body was shattered before teleportation was even released. The surroundings of the sword discourse arena were in an uproar. Yang Ruoxu glanced sideways and sneered. Senior Brother Pang, outsiders are not allowed to interfere in the fight on the sword discourse arena. Your reminder earlier on was already considered a violation of the rules. Humph. Knowing that he was in the wrong, Pang Yu harumphed coldly and did not refute. He had not expected Su Zimo's attack to be so ferocious that it was like a thunderbolt, not giving his opponent any chance to resist. Even with his reminder, Elder Tang did not have time to escape. Yang Ruoxu said in a deep voice, I don't think there's a need to continue this fight. The outcome has been decided. Not necessarily. Pang Yu said, Elder Tang was merely careless and lost the initiative. The methods of a heaven immortal are not something a mere earth immortal like him can match. Heaven immortals can circulate blood rebirth. As long as their essence spirits are not destroyed, even if their bodies are destroyed, they can reconstruct their bodies and recover their combat strength in the blink of an eye. Yang Ruoxu said, if not for the fact life and death battles are not allowed on the sword discourse arena, Su Zimo's palm strike would have landed on Elder Tang's head. By now, Elder Tang's essence spirit would be the one that was destroyed instead of a mere body explosion. Actually, as Yang Ruoxu had said, the outcome of the battle on the sword discourse arena was decided. However, Pang Yu was indignant and did not call for a stop. On the sword discourse arena, Elder Tang was even more enraged and wanted to use blood rebirth to suppress Su Zimo with all his might to regain his dignity. After shattering Elder Tang's body with a single palm strike, Su Zimo stopped and did not continue chasing. However, he shifted his gaze and saw that Pang Yu had no intention of calling for a stop. On the other side, Elder Tang's essence spirit escaped to a corner of the sword discourse arena and was circulating blood rebirth to recover his body. Su Zimo understood that the other party had not given up at all. He smirked coldly. Blood rebirth was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, Elder Tang's body was reconstructed. Just as Elder Tang was about to channel his essence spirit, he felt his vision blur as though something flashed. The next moment, he felt a tremendous sense of danger envelop him, causing his hairs to stand on end. This is bad. Elder Ting shouted internally. Immediately after, he felt another sharp pain on his back and his chest exploded. His entire body was shattered by a terrifying power once more. Right in front of everyone, Elder Tang's body that had just been reconstructed was shattered by Su Zimo's palm once more. Elder Tang could not withstand the power of the Green Lotus True Body coupled with the Great Chaos Essence palm. The crowd was in an uproar. As the disciplinary elder of the outer sect, Elder Tang had a noble status and was even a grade 1 heaven immortal. To think that he would be shattered twice by an earth immortal on the sword discourse arena without the chance to retaliate. How tragic. Elder Tang lost the initiative and was suppressed at every step. I wonder if he still has a chance to turn defeat into victory. Su Zimo is truly smart. He knows the difference between earth immortals and heaven immortals and knows that he can't defend against supreme divine powers. That's why he attacked consecutively and destroyed Elder Ting's body, making it difficult for the heaven immortal to unleash his advantage. Some cultivators discussed and analyzed seriously. When an essence spirit cultivated to the heaven immortal realm, they could release supreme divine powers. However, a physical body was required for that. Otherwise, the essence spirit alone would not be able to withstand the power of supreme divine powers. Therefore, without a body, Elder Tang could not use supreme divine powers. On the other side, Pang Yu's expression darkened as he could not help but curse. What an idiot! After you reconstruct your body, you should release teleportation and leave right away before counterattacking. Although Pang Yu seemed like he was cursing, he was actually reminding Elder Tang how to deal with the situation. After Elder Tang's body was shattered for the second time, His essence spirit fled to a corner once more and used blood rebirth to form a body of flesh and blood. This time round, he had learned his lesson. After condensing his body, he channeled his essence spirit and teleported away without lingering on the spot. As long as he distanced himself from Su Zimo and had a momentary breather, it would be enough for him to condense a supreme divine power to suppress Su Zimo. However, after teleportation, the moment his figure appeared, before he could catch his breath, the familiar sense of danger descended once more. Fuck! Elder Tang was enraged and cursed out of loss of composure. The next moment, his body was shattered by Su Zimo's palm once more. He had teleportation, but Su Zimo had the true Dragon 9 flashes. Blood rebirth was not without restrictions. Each time his body shattered, Elder Tang would lose a large amount of bloodline essence. His body was shattered 3 times in succession, and he had expended a lot of blood qi. He was not young and his blood qi had already decreased from its peak to begin with. Now that he was severely injured, he seemed to have aged considerably in an instant. Elder Tang's essence spirit escaped and he teleported away once more to condense his body. Bang! Immediately after, Su Zimo descended and shattered his body with a single palm strike. Initially, Elder Ting's heart was filled with anger and indignance. However, after his body was shattered 6 times in succession, there was only despair left in his heart. If this continued, he would no longer have the ability to use blood rebirth when his blood qi was depleted. Elder Tang's essence spirit looked at Pang Yu on the other side. His face was filled with panic, fear, helplessness and despair. Elder Tang believed that as long as Pang Yu said a single word, he would no longer have to endure such torture. However, Pang Yu's expression was cold and he refused to say or express anything. Yang Ruoxu could not bear it. The outcome has been decided. I think Elder Tang can come down now. No! Pang Yu rejected it flatly and said coldly, this is a path he chose himself and he has to complete it. He's a heaven immortal. How can he admit defeat casually? How can he lose to an earth immortal casually? Even if a heaven immortal has to die, he will not allow an earth immortal to trample on his dignity. Yang Ruoxu frowned slightly. He could vaguely tell that Pang Yu was implying something. Chapter 2174. 2174 Sacrifice. 2174 Sacrifice. On the Sword Discourse Arena. When he heard Pang Yu's words, Elder Tang's essence spirit that was escaping suddenly paused. First, his eyes were filled with confusion. Thereafter, as though he understood something, his face suddenly turned menacing and terrifying with a frenzied expression. The dignity of a heaven immortal is not to be humiliated. Suddenly, Elder Ting shrieked, Su Zimo, I'll fight you to the death. The moment he said that, a violent spirit consciousness fluctuation burst forth from the Sword Discourse Arena. Essence Spirit Secret Skill. The cultivators were shocked and exclaimed. How dare you? Yang Ruoxu's expression changed starkly as he finally understood what Pang Yu meant by that. He was reminding Elder Tang to fight with his life. Apart from supreme divine powers, the strongest methods of heaven immortal experts were also essence spirit secret skills. Yang Ruoxu wanted to save Su Zimo right away. However, although his cultivation realm was high and he was strong, it was already too late by the time he realized it. The speed at which essence spirit secret skills were condensed and released was so fast that bystanders could not interfere at all. Even Su Zimo, who was on the Sword Discourse Arena, did not seem to be able to react to it, let alone the bystanders. He stood motionlessly in midair, rooted to the spot. Elder Tang's essence spirit secret skill transformed into a streak of light and arrived instantly, entering Su Zimo's glabella. It's over. Princess Scarlet Rainbow's body swayed slightly with a pained expression. Up till this point of her cultivation, she had encountered countless paragons and monster incarnates. However, Su Zimo gave her the most special feeling. This was a man that she admired and was curious about. Unfortunately, such a rare paragon and monster incarnate who dared to fight against Prince Yuanzhua, the great Jin Immortal Kingdom and Zither Immortal Meng Yao would die on the Sword Discourse Arena of Heaven and Earth Academy just like that. In Heaven and Earth Academy, fellow sect mates were not allowed to fight to the death. However, Su Zimo was now assaulted by a Heaven Immortal with an Essence Spirit secret skill. For a paragon, such a death would be way too aggrieved and unfair. It was as dazzling as a meteor, leaving a resplendent mark in the night sky but dying instantly. Sigh! A series of sighs sounded from the crowd. The scene of Su Zimo destroying Elder Ting's body consecutively earlier on was way too shocking for the outer sect disciples and caused their blood to boil. To think that Su Zimo would end up in such a state in the blink of an eye. What a pity! Given his talent, potential and methods, his future accomplishments are immeasurable. However, it's nothing much. Throughout history, there have been countless paragons and monster incarnates. Most of them died prematurely and he's only one of them. Some felt pity, some were sad, some were cold and some were happy. The fickleness of human nature was part of it. Pang Yu! Yang Ruoxu was enraged and shouted without addressing him as senior brother, "Aren't you way too vicious? He has only joined the academy for 1,000 years and hasn't committed any mistakes. How dare you instruct a heaven immortal to kill him on the sword discourse arena with an essence spirit secret skill? Are you still human?" Yang Ruoxu's skin color was similar to bronze. In his rage, his blood chi surged and his entire face darkened, looking like an enraged Vajra that was extremely terrifying. Although Elder Tang was the one who was trying to kill Su Zimo, Yang Ruoxu knew that the root of this matter was Pang Yu. While Elder Tang might be alive right now, he was already a dead man. According to the rules of the academy, it was a serious crime to use an essence spirit secret skill on the sword discourse arena. Furthermore, Elder Tang did it against a fellow sect mate. Yang Ruoxu knew very well that the mastermind behind Su Zimo's death was Pang Yu, who seemed like he was not involved at all. Foo-foo. Pang Yu chuckled smugly. The more enraged Yang Ruoxu was, the happier he was. Pang Yu shrugged his shoulders slightly and gave a perfect guileless look. "Junior brother Yang, there are some things that you can't spout nonsense about. When have I ever instructed Elder Tang to use any essence spirit secret skill to kill Su Zimo?" Yang Ruoxu clenched his fists and grit his teeth. He did not say anything and merely glared at Pang Yu. Pang Yu had a calm expression as he said leisurely, "Everyone witnessed the fight on the sword discourse arena today. All the cultivators present can vouch for me." Yang Ruoxu was furious and even wanted to attack Pang Yu immediately. However, he knew that there was no reason for him to attack. Pang Yu was way too smart. Earlier on, Pang Yu did not explicitly instruct Elder Tang to use his essence spirit secret skill or kill Su Zimo with his words. Without leaving any stains on himself, he made use of Elder Tang to kill Su Zimo. "Pang Yu!" Yang Ruoxu grit his teeth and said coldly, "I know that some of you in the inner sect have always looked down on me and tried all means to suppress me. This was no secret. Not only in the inner sect, even disciples of the outer sect could tell something was amiss. Yang Ruoxu came from the lower worlds and was ostracized in the academy to begin with. Furthermore, he was an upright person and did not know how to be tactful. Naturally, he was gradually isolated by many inner sect disciples. However, Yang Ruoxu relied on his own hard work to grow in adversity and advance against the odds, gradually entering the top 10 of the inner sect disciples. Later on, he even represented the academy to head to Coiling Dragon Mountain Range to host the Immortal sect selections and recruit disciples. Although this matter made him famous in the Divine Firmament Immortal domain, he attracted even more hostility in the academy. Under normal circumstances, Yang Ruoxu should not be the inner sect disciple representing the academy. There were at least 5 people in the academy who were superior to Yang Ruoxu in terms of combat strength, status and background. Pang Yu was included among the 5 of them. It was easy to imagine the hostility that Yang Ruoxu received within the inner sect. Although both parties had some conflicts and could not stand it, they were at Heaven and Earth Academy after all. At the very least, on the surface, things were still calm and they rarely fought or fell out. It was only until 1,000 years ago at the Immortal sect selection when some rumors about Fairy Mo Qing and Yang Ruoxu spread that the peace was broken. Those rumors pushed Yang Ruoxu into the center of the storm. For the past 1,000 years, Yang Ruoxu had sparred with inner sect disciples on the sword discourse arena as well. Su Zimo was also an important person in the Immortal sect selection 1,000 years ago. He came from the lower worlds like Yang Ruoxu and was protected by the latter. That was the reason why Pang Yu and the others shifted their gazes towards Su Zimo. Pang Yu had once informed Elder Tang to find an opportunity to teach Su Zimo a lesson, and it would be best if he could kick the latter out of the academy. It could be said that Su Zimo was embroiled in this fight between inner sect disciples without knowing anything. He was merely a sacrifice for this inner sect fight. I can accept your contempt and hostility. However, Su Zimo is not related to me. Back then, he was just an ordinary cultivator and he is no different from the other disciples who joined the academy. Why are you guys targeting him? Yang Ruoxu glared at Pang Yu and shouted. He has nothing to do with our feud. He's innocent. If you have any means, you can come at me directly. Chapter 2175. 2175 Fuck your mother. 2175 Fuck your mother. You're all lowlifes. How can you be considered as unrelated? Pang Yu sneered with a disdainful expression. His death will not be unjustified. He deserves it because you chose to back him with all your might. With those words, the two of them had now fallen out completely. Today's matter is just a reminder. The corners of Pang Yu's mouth curled up slightly as he said, although your reputation in Divine Firmament Mainland has grown in recent years, let me tell you, you're nothing in the inner sect of the Academy. You can't even protect a lowlife in the Academy. The surroundings of the Sword Discourse arena were silent and the atmosphere was heavy. All the cultivators felt chills when they heard Pang Yu's words. Pang Yu's words were not only for Yang Ruoxu, but also for all the Academy disciples present. He was warning the cultivators present that anyone who had anything to do with Yang Ruoxu would be in an extremely difficult situation in the Academy and might even lose their lives. They would suffer the same outcome as Su Zimo earlier on. I see. Suddenly, a mocking voice sounded from the Sword Discourse arena. There were only two people on the Sword Discourse arena. One was Elder Tang's essence spirit. Due to the consecutive destruction of his body, his blood qi was severely depleted and almost dried up. Right now, he was still gathering his blood qi slowly, preparing to reconstruct his body. That voice did not belong to Elder Ting. It belonged to the other person. Could it be? Princess Scarlet Rainbow seemed to have thought of something and her eyes lit up. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Instantly, all the cultivators' gazes landed on the green-robed cultivator on the Sword Discourse arena. Pest! Everyone gasped. Su Zimo was not dead. The outer sect disciple who was struck by the Heaven Immortals' essence spirit secret skill was still alive. Furthermore, his body was filled with vitality and his face was rosy without any signs of injury. Wah! Apart from shock, many cultivators were puzzled. Everyone saw Elder Tang's essence spirit secret skill enter Su Zimo's consciousness. Even Heaven Immortals would definitely die if their essence spirits were struck by an essence spirit secret skill, let alone Earth Immortals. The change at that time was sudden. Su Zimo looked like he was rooted on the spot motionlessly, struck by Elder Tang's essence spirit secret skill. In reality, Su Zimo had already sensed Elder Tang's killing intent the moment it appeared. The reason why he did not use his essence spirit secret skill to fight Elder Tang head-on was because there was no need. When Elder Tang's essence spirit secret skill entered his consciousness, it was shattered by the green lotus sword formed by the green lotus seeds. With the protection of the creation lotus platform, the remnant spirit consciousness power could not injure the green lotus essence spirit at all. Thereafter, everyone thought that Su Zimo was dead. Later on, everyone's attention was drawn to the argument between Yang Ruoxu and Pang Yu. Naturally, no one paid attention to him. Su Zimo also wanted to know the reason why Elder Tang was targeting him, so he did not say anything. It was only now that he understood the entire situation that he spoke. You're not dead. The smile on Pang Yu's face vanished as he glared at Su Zimo coldly. Good, good, good. Instead, Yang Ruoxu burst into laughter and praised, Junior brother Su, you sure are capable. Since Su Zimo was not dead, he no longer had to feel guilty and was in a great mood. How are you not dead? Elder Tang's essence spirit was flustered. He had not expected that the outer sect disciple before him would revive. Since I'm not dead. Su Zimo looked at Elder Tang and said indifferently, you're the one who'll be dead soon. You. Elder Tang's expression changed starkly and he wanted to turn and escape. However, Su Zimo was even faster. Before his sentence was finished, he had already attacked. He strode forward and opened his palm, trapping Elder Tang's essence spirit in it. "Senior brother Pang, save me!" Elder Tang was almost scared out of his wits and shrieked. "Su Zimo, stop!" A cold glint flashed through Pang Yu's eyes. Instead of attacking immediately, he hollered, "According to the rules of the academy, life and death battles are not allowed on the sword discourse arena." "Foo-foo!" Su Zimo could not help but laugh. Prior to this, Pang Yu secretly instigated Elder Tang to use his essence spirit secret skill to kill him. Now, Pang Yu was the one declaring the rules of the academy righteously instead. Su Zimo was a scholar to begin with and was well versed in the teachings of sages. Even though he had entered the cultivation world and killed countless people, he rarely cursed. However, at that moment, he hated Pang Yu to the core. He glanced at the latter and said indifferently, "No life and death battles? Fuck your mother." With that said, Su Zimo exerted strength in his palm and crushed Elder Tang's essence spirit. The disciplinary elder of the outer sect was destroyed in body and spirit on the sword discourse arena. The surrounding cultivators were dumbfounded as they looked at Su Zimo in disbelief. Even Pang Yu was stunned. Actually, he had already expected that Su Zimo would kill Elder Tang. With that, he would have enough reason to step in personally to suppress Su Zimo. However, he had not expected that Su Zimo would dare to scold him. "Fuck your mother." Pang Yu was completely stunned. "Bastard, how dare you scold me?" Pang Yu snapped out of his stupor and was enraged. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he channeled his essence spirit and released teleportation, vanishing on the spot. By the time Pang Yu appeared, he was already on the sword discourse arena, beside Su Zimo. "Die!" Pang Yu released a palm strike with a terrifying might. Su Zimo could not defend against the power of a grade 9 heaven immortal at all. Even his grade 10 green lotus true body would be shattered. The moment Pang Yu released teleportation, Su Zimo had already sensed it. Without hesitation, he released the true dragon 9 flashes. The moment Pang Yu appeared, Su Zimo had already vanished from the spot. Pang Yu's palm strike missed. The crowd exclaimed once more. As an inner sect disciple, one of the top 5 to boot, and a grade 9 heaven immortal, Pang Yu's personal appearance to deal with an outer sect disciple was enough to cause an uproar. However, what shocked everyone even more was that Pang Yu's first attack missed and he did not manage to kill Su Zimo. Pang Yu's reaction speed was extremely fast as well. In a flash, he charged over at an astonishing speed, as though he could determine Su Zimo's landing spot. At the same time, he released the spirit consciousness pressure of a grade 9 heaven immortal and descended from the skies. The moment Su Zimo's figure appeared, he fell into such a tremendous spirit consciousness pressure. Against the pressure of that spirit consciousness, it was as though he had fallen into a swamp and it was difficult for him to move. He could not release the true Dragon 9 flashes and had nowhere to run. This was the method of a top-tier heaven immortal. Pang Yu closed 2 fingers and conjured a sword art, piercing towards Su Zimo's glabella. Instantly, it was as though a sharp sword was formed. Before it descended, Su Zimo's glabella was already bleeding. The fact that Pang Yu missed his attack was embarrassing enough for him. He was determined to kill Su Zimo on the spot with his fingers now. Chapter 2176. 2176 Death of Pang Yu. 2176 Death of Pang Yu. When Su Zimo saw that he could not dodge, his eyes shone with a ferocious glint. He was prepared to take the risk. Pang Yu's finger was way too sharp and it was impossible for him to escape unscathed. However, it was impolite not to reciprocate. Su Zimo channeled his essence spirit wildly and glared at Pang Yu fiercely. A bronze square tripod vaguely appeared in the bloodlight on his glabella. He wanted to use the Hell Suppression tripod to defend against the first wave of impact from Pang Yu's sword finger. Although the Hell Suppression tripod was incomparably tough, it was difficult to neutralize the power of a grade 9 heaven immortal completely. There was another utmost treasure on the Green Lotus Essence Spirit, the Trinity Auspicious Jade. This utmost treasure had absorbed the essence of the sun, moon and stars continuously over the years and was incomparably tough. It could even defend against the secondary impact. If that could not resolve the sharpness completely, he still had the 9 heavens living soil. Even if he was severely injured, Su Zimo wanted to kill Pang Yu. After cultivating to the heaven immortal realm, his essence spirit could already release supreme divine powers. Among the supreme divine powers he comprehended, there was a supreme divine power that could ignore the cultivation realm of heaven immortals and kill a grade 9 heaven immortal. It was an extremely risky move. Su Zimo did not know if the Hell Suppression Tripod, Trinity Auspicious Jade and 9 Heavens Living Soil could defend against Pang Yu's attacks. However, he knew one thing. He was definitely going to make Pang Yu pay. Sensing the madness and killing intent in Su Zimo's eyes, a mocking look flashed through Pang Yu's eyes as he sneered. "Do you want to resist?" Pang Yu said softly, "In my eyes, your strength is like an ant that overestimates itself." Swoosh! The sword finger descended and stabbed towards Su Zimo's glabella with a sharp edge. Suddenly, a tall figure appeared in front of Su Zimo. He was filled with righteousness and had a torrential aura, not weaker than the grade 9 heaven immortal, Pang Yu. Yang Ruoxu had arrived through teleportation. When Pang Yu teleported away and attacked for the first time, Yang Ruoxu did not manage to arrive in time. This time round, he arrived in time. He hollered and righteousness reverberated in his chest. Raising his arm, he clenched it into a fist and punched towards Pang Yu's incoming sword finger. The moment Yang Ruoxu appeared and shouted, Su Zimo growled as well. Fleeting moment. The power of a supreme divine power burst forth and descended instantly, enveloping Pang Yu. After Yang Ruoxu appeared, Pang Yu's attention was not on Su Zimo at all. With a ferocious gaze, he glared at Yang Ruoxu and sneered, "Junior brother Yang, your fist is still lacking. You can't defend against my sword finger." Bang! Pang Yu's sword finger collided with Yang Ruoxu's fist and a shockwave burst forth, engulfing the entire sword discourse arena. The surrounding cultivators who were watching were blown back by the aura and swayed. Yang Ruoxu also knew that his current combat strength was not a match for Pang Yu. However, Su Zimo was right behind him and he could not let Su Zimo get injured. He could not retreat. The fist and finger collided and the two of them stood facing one another motionlessly. Pang Yu frowned slightly. He felt that something was amiss. The power of his sword should have been able to penetrate Yang Ruoxu's fist. How were they evenly matched right now? Yang Ruoxu was puzzled as well. Could Pang Yu have held back? However, right then, their expressions changed. A look of shock flashed through Pang Yu's eyes, followed by confusion, fear and finally shock. As for Yang Ruoxu, his expression changed drastically as he looked at Pang Yu in disbelief. To Yang Ruoxu, Pang Yu's appearance was aged at a speed visible to the naked eye. His black hair turned as white as snow in the blink of an eye. Wrinkles lined Pang Yu's face, making him look like an old man who was about to die at any moment. His clear and cold eyes had turned turbid and withered. Gradually, the surrounding cultivators noticed something unusual about Pang Yu as well. "Look, what's wrong with senior brother Pang? Heavens, how did senior brother Pang become like this in the blink of an eye?" Right in front of everyone, Pang Yu's initially upright body became hunched and his entire figure shrank. The commotion in the crowd intensified. Everyone looked at Pang Yu in shock. "What happened to me?" Pang Yu's voice trembled slightly. The moment he spoke, he realized that his voice had become incomparably old. Pang Yu could not believe that the voice came from his mouth. "Senior brother Pang, why is your lifespan?" Yang Ruoxu's eyes widened as well, not knowing what was going on. He could clearly sense that Pang Yu's lifespan was almost up. The lifespan of a heaven immortal was 300,000 years. Right now, Pang Yu was only 100,000 years old and was at his peak. But now, his lifespan was almost up and he could die at any moment. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. My lifespan. Pang Yu was filled with wrinkles and his shriveled lips moved. He also realized what had happened to him. His lifespan was exhausted and he was about to die. This was even more terrifying than being severely injured or having his essence spirit damaged. Even if his essence spirit was injured, there was a sliver of hope for treatment. However, when one's lifespan was exhausted, they would truly die.
You!
Finally, Pang Yu glared at Yang Ruoxu with his hazy eyes, panting heavily with hatred. However, he was stunned when he saw the confused Yang Ruoxu. Earlier on, Yang Ruoxu merely attacked and took him head-on. There was no way he could release such power. Furthermore, judging from Yang Ruoxu's expression, he did not seem to know what happened either. However, if it was not Yang Ruoxu, who could it be? Who was attacking him in secret? Before Pang Yu died, a thought flashed through his mind. His gaze shifted and landed on the green-robed cultivator behind Yang Ruoxu. At that moment, the green-robed cultivator had a calm expression and was glaring at him coldly. He was not surprised at all. Suddenly, Pang Yu recalled that someone had mentioned fleeting moment on the battlefield earlier on.
Why you?
Pang Yu raised his arm with difficulty and pointed at Su Zimo from afar. Su Zimo was in the direction of Yang Ruoxu. In everyone's eyes, they naturally thought that Pang Yu was referring to Yang Ruoxu. In the intense battle earlier on, Yang Ruoxu shouted and Su Zimo's holler was almost drowned out by that shout and no one noticed it. Who would have thought that a grade 8 Earth Immortal could release a supreme divine power? Who would have thought that a supreme divine power of an Earth Immortal could kill a top 5 grade 9 Heaven Immortal of the Intersect on the spot? Pang Yu's lips twitched, as though he wanted to say something more. However, his lifespan was completely exhausted in that short period of time. Thump! Pang Yu raised his arm and fell backwards with widened eyes, unable to rest in peace. Even till his death, Pang Yu could not understand how he died in the hands of an Earth Immortal. Chapter 2177 2177 Fang Qingyun 2177 Fang Qingyun. Senior brother Pang died just like that. To think that senior brother Yang's combat strength would already be so terrifying. He killed senior brother Pang with a single move. I reckon that senior brother Yang's current combat strength is comparable to senior brother Fang. A disciple who had just joined the academy could not help but ask, which senior brother Fang? The current number 1 of the inner sect, Fang Qingyun of course. I wonder what's the name of the supreme divine power senior brother Yang used earlier on. To think that it could exhaust senior brother Pang's lifespan by more than 100,000 years. How terrifying. I didn't hear it clearly. It seemed to be fleeting something. There was a commotion around the sword discourse arena. A cultivator had long run to the inner sect to inform them about this important matter. Life and death battles were not allowed on the sword discourse arena. However, 2 people died consecutively today. One was the disciplinary elder and the other was a grade 9 Heaven Immortal who was ranked top 5 in the inner sect. This would definitely shock the academy. Su Zimo had a calm expression. Elder Tang and Pang Yu were the ones who were unreasonable in this matter to begin with. He was merely forced to retaliate. As long as the academy was fair, they would not punish him. Fleeting moment was comprehended to its limits through the power of Baron, and time is like a saber. With the augmentation of that divine power, the passage of time was fleeting and vanished in a moment. No matter how much lifespan Pang Yu had, even if it was the full 300,000 years, it would be difficult for him to survive if he was struck by fleeting moment. Of course, if fleeting moment struck a perfected immortal, it would be useless. Perfected immortals possessed condensed Tao fruits and were protected by true essence. The power of fleeting moment could not penetrate it at all. If Pang Yu was prepared and used another supreme divine power to defend against fleeting moment, he would not have died. Unfortunately, Pang Yu did not take Su Zimo seriously at all. He had not expected Su Zimo to be able to release a power that could threaten him. All his attention was on Yang Ruoxu. His sharpness and strength were condensed on his sword finger and he released an earth-shaking defense against Yang Ruoxu. Right then, fleeting moment descended. Of course, Su Zimo knew one thing. Although Pang Yu died to fleeting moment, it did not mean that he could kill a grade 9 Heaven Immortal head-on. The difference in strength between them was too great. Even the power of a grade 3 or 4 Heaven Immortal was difficult for him to defend against, let alone a grade 9 Heaven Immortal. He knew his limits. If Yang Ruoxu had not appeared at the end and diverted Pang Yu's attention and strength, he might not have succeeded. It could be said that Pang Yu died in the hands of Su Zimo. However, there were many coincidences that happened as well. Just as Su Zimo was deep in thought, he suddenly sensed something and looked up. Yang Ruoxu, who was in front of him, had already turned around and was looking at him meaningfully with a conflicted expression. There was shock, realization and emotions. Everyone thought that Pang Yu died in Yang Ruoxu's hands. However, Yang Ruoxu knew that the power of his punch earlier on could not kill Pang Yu, nor could it achieve such a terrifying effect. If it was not him, who could it be? There were only 3 people on the sword discourse arena. Pang Yu was already dead. If he was not the person who did it, it could only be the third person. Although this matter could be hidden from everyone, it could not be hidden from Yang Ruoxu. It was M. Su Zimo had just said 2 words when Yang Ruoxu suddenly frowned and waved his hand, interrupting Su Zimo. Don't admit to this. Yang Ruoxu whispered with a grim expression. Just as Su Zimo was about to ask, a holler sounded from afar. What happened? A few figures tore through the air from the direction of the inner sect at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, they arrived and descended slowly. Their leader wore a dark green robe with auspicious clouds etched on it. His black hair was tied up and he had a dignified expression with a long sword hanging on his waist. Greetings, Senior Brother Fang. The surrounding cultivators cupped their fists in greeting. The number 1 of the inner sect, Fang Qingyun. Behind Fang Qingyun were 4 cultivators, a man and a woman. All of them were elegant and extraordinary with powerful auras that were comparable to Yang Ruoxu. The man and woman were Tang Peng and Yan Bingying. They were also extremely famous in the inner sect and their combat strength could be ranked in the top 10. Among them, Yan Bingying even had the reputation of being the number 1 fairy of the inner sect. There were many rumors about her and Fang Qingyun, but neither of them confirmed anything openly. Greetings, Senior Brother Tang and Senior Sister Yan. Many cultivators bowed once more. Fang Qingyun's gaze was sharp and he caught sight of Pang Yu, who died on the sword discourse arena right away. However, his expression was unchanged as he narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Yang Ruoxu, who was not far away, without revealing any emotions. Senior Brother Pang. When Tang Peng saw Pang Yu's corpse, his eyes widened and he exclaimed before charging onto the sword discourse arena. Yan Bingying reached out and covered her cherry lips as well, exclaiming, "You did it!" Tang Peng raised his head suddenly and glared at Yang Ruoxu fiercely, saying coldly with a ferocious expression, "That's right." Yang Ruoxu agreed without hesitation. "Die then!" Tang Peng hollered murderously and slapped his storage bag, retrieving a pair of shimmering golden gloves that he wore. The gloves wrapped around Tang Peng's palm completely. Furthermore, his fingernails were as sharp as sabers and clanged when they collided, causing sparks to fly like a pair of sharp eagle claws. Swoosh! In a flash, Tang Peng vanished from the spot. Teleportation. Yang Ruoxu frowned slightly. If he was facing a normal enemy, he should have teleported away by now. However, Su Zimo was right behind him. If he were to leave, there was a high chance that Su Zimo would be implicated by the enraged Tang Peng and die on the spot. At that thought, Yang Ruoxu did not move at all. He swiped his storage bag and a sword suddenly appeared in his palm, piercing towards the void diagonally behind him. There was initially nothing there. Right after Yang Ruoxu's attack, Tang Peng's figure suddenly appeared and extended his sharp golden claws to grab down. However, Yang Ruoxu's attack met it head-on. Clang! The sword and claw collided with an ear-piercing sound of metal clashing. Tang Peng shuddered slightly and left once more in a flash. His speed was extremely fast and there was only a streak of light left on the sword discourse arena. The gazes of the outer sect disciples could not catch up to his movement technique. Even with Su Zimo's eyesight, he could not lock onto it and could only see after images. Su Zimo merely watched for a while before he felt dizzy. He was secretly alarmed. The inner sect disciples of the academy were way too strong. If Pang Yu had not been distracted by Yang Ruoxu and was unprepared for fleeting moment, he would not have been struck by that attack. When Tang Peng was young, he obtained a great opportunity and swapped blood through marrow cleansing. The bloodline of the rock race flowed through his body and his innate speed was shocking. In the inner sect, Tang Peng was the number 1 in movement techniques. Chapter 2178. 2178 Fair Opportunity. 2178 Fair Opportunity. Tang Peng circled around Yang Ruoxu continuously without attacking. However, it also meant that he could attack at any moment. A wrong judgment would result in serious injuries. Yang Ruoxu let out a long breath and suddenly closed his eyes. Wielding his sword with one hand, he seemed to have given up. At that moment, Su Zimo was also on the battlefield and could not escape. Suddenly, a warning flashed in Su Zimo's mind. On the left. The moment that thought flashed through his mind, Yang Ruoxu had already attacked and stabbed to the left. At the same time, a golden light flashed and grabbed the blade of the sword, causing sparks to fly. Tang Peng did not stop after missing his attack and continued sprinting. Before long, a warning flashed through Su Zimo's mind once more. At the same time, Yang Ruoxu attacked once more. Clang! The sword and claw collided and Tang Peng's figure flashed, disappearing from Yang Ruoxu's line of sight. Right from the beginning, Yang Ruoxu had not opened his eyes. Su Zimo lamented internally, secretly in awe. His spirit perception was inherited from Dai Yu, and he could determine the origin of the danger. Yang Ruoxu's methods were extremely brilliant as well. Righteousness surrounded him, forming an invisible aura. As long as Tang Peng attacked, he would definitely disrupt the balance of the aura. Therefore, Yang Ruoxu could sense it right away. No matter how fast Tang Peng was, he could not match Yang Ruoxu's sword. Therefore, right in front of many cultivators, the battle on the sword discourse arena turned extremely strange. An indiscernible figure moved continuously at a speed that distorted the surrounding void. As for Yang Ruoxu, he wielded his sword with one hand and placed the other behind his back. Standing proudly, he stabbed out from time to time. With every thrust, the sound of metal clashing would echo from the sword discourse arena. In 10 minutes, Tang Peng had already attacked 100 times. However, Yang Ruoxu did not move at all. Senior brother Tang, I know that you have a deep relationship with senior brother Pang. However, it's not too late for us to spar after you confirm the exact details of this matter. Right then, Yang Ruoxu suddenly spoke with his eyes closed, attracting exclamations. Everyone knew that they could not afford to be distracted in such an intense battle. A single mistake could result in death. However, Yang Ruoxu still had the strength to speak in such an intense battle. At the very least, it meant that Yang Ruoxu was at ease and still had strength left. Senior brother Tang, don't fall for it. He's trying to lure you into talking. Yan Bingying stood out and sneered. A life for a life. It's only right. What's there to say to a lowlife like you? It was only now that Su Zimo realized why Yang Ruoxu told him not to admit that he was the one who killed Pang Yu. That was because Yang Ruoxu knew that Fang Qingyun, Tang Peng, Yan Bingying and the others would definitely not let them off with Pang Yu's death. These people were led by Fang Qingyun. In the inner sect, they had many feuds with Yang Ruoxu to begin with and could not stand one another, causing their conflicts to deepen. Pang Yu's death intensified the conflict between both parties completely. Yang Ruoxu knew these people too well. They would not even bother to ask for the reason for Pang Yu's death, and would just fight right away. However, Su Zimo was only an outer sect disciple who had ascended from the lower worlds. There was no way he could defend against them. The root of this matter was his feud with Fang Qingyun and the other inner sect disciples. Su Zimo was implicated. There was naturally no way he would push Su Zimo into the center of the storm and let the latter endure the wrath of Fang Qingyun and the others. There was no way Su Zimo could withstand it. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of swords and claws clashing on the sword discourse arena intensified. The fight between both parties was also approaching its climax. Tang Peng's attacks turned increasingly ferocious and he was already using his full strength. He was naturally getting increasingly anxious after failing to take down Yang Ruoxu time and again. However, Yang Ruoxu's eyes were closed the entire time and he was calm. Suddenly, Fang Qingyun shook his head and said softly, Tang Peng is getting flustered. He's going to lose soon. Before his sentence was finished, Yang Ruoxu suddenly opened his eyes on the sword discourse arena and hollered softly, hit! Xing! A A sword beam flashed past like lightning that tore through the night sky. It was incomparably stunning and brought with it a stream of grisly blood. The next moment, Yang Ruoxu retracted his sword. Tang Peng's figure appeared and he clutched his chest with his right hand. Blood seeped out from the gaps between his fingers as he glared at Yang Ruoxu with hatred and indignance. Yang Ruoxu's sword pierced his heart. Although Heaven Immortals could use blood rebirth, once blood qi entered their bodies and shattered their hearts, it would take at least 10 breaths for them to recover completely. Victory was decided. Yang Ruoxu, don't be smug. Wait a moment, we'll fight again. Tang Peng grit his teeth and said. Yang Ruoxu frowned slightly and said coldly, I've already shown mercy with my attack. The victor between us has been decided. If you continue to fight, won't it seem dishonorable? Who cares about victory? I'll fight you to the death. Tang Peng's killing intent did not diminish. Life and death battles are not allowed on the sword discourse arena. Yang Ruoxu said in a deep voice. Tang Peng, retreat. Just as Tang Peng was about to speak, Fang Qingyun suddenly spoke and waved his hand gently, indicating for Tang Peng to leave. Although Tang Peng was indignant, he did not dare to disobey Fang Qingyun. He took a deep breath and turned to leave. In a flash, Fang Qingyun descended slowly and stood on the sword discourse arena. Fang Qingyun did not exude any sharpness or terrifying stance. However, Su Zimo, who was standing opposite him, felt chills run down his spine. Even with Yang Ruoxu in front of him, he could not get rid of that frightening feeling. This person was very strong. There was no wonder why he was the number one of the inner sect. Su Zimo was secretly alarmed. Yang Ruoxu's expression turned extremely grim as well and he tensed up. He gripped his sword so tightly that his knuckles turned pale. Senior brother Fang, are you going to attack too? Yang Ruoxu glared at Fang Qingyun fixedly without daring to be distracted. Don't be nervous. Fang Qingyun waved it off with an indifferent expression. Indeed, life and death battles are not allowed on the sword discourse arena. However, you'll have to pay with your life for breaking the academy rules and killing junior brother Pang. This matter isn't. Yang Ruoxu explained. However, before he could finish, he was interrupted by Fang Qingyun. I don't want to hear any cause or reason. What I saw was that on the sword discourse arena, you and junior brother Pang had already fought to the death and broke the academy rules. The academy rules alone are enough to justify your death. Yang Ruoxu had just spoken. Fang Qingyun interrupted him once more and said, Junior brother Yang, I'll give you a chance now to fight me fair and square. If you win, I won't cause trouble for you in the future. You'll die no matter what. At the very least, I'll give you a dignified death in front of the disciples of the academy. Foo-foo. Suddenly, Su Zimo laughed and said, Senior brother Fang, you make it sound like a fair opportunity. However, senior brother Yang has just fought against Pang Yu and Tang Peng. He has expended a lot of energy. How is that fair? Chapter 2179. 2179 Appearance of the Elders. 2179 Appearance of the Elders. You're an outer sect disciple. There's no room for you to speak here. Get lost. After Su Zimo said that, Fang Qingyun was expressionless. Before he could reply, Tang Peng could not help but stand out and berate. Ha ha. Su Zimo burst into laughter and asked again, why? Senior brother Fang can take advantage of others but nobody is allowed to say anything about it? In the academy, even inner sect disciples would not dare to say such words in front of Fang Qingyun. The cultivators were shocked and their expressions changed. After Fang Qingyun appeared, he had a calm expression the entire time. However, at that moment, his expression changed slightly. He narrowed his eyes and shifted his gaze towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo noticed Fang Qingyun's gaze and was even more certain. Fang Qingyun's words and actions earlier on exuded a domineering aura. As the number one of the inner sect, he was definitely extremely conceited and valued his reputation. Now that everyone was watching, he had no choice but to compromise even if he wanted to take revenge for Pang Yu as soon as possible. Otherwise, even if he won, it would be an unfair victory because he took advantage of the situation. In the inner sect and academy, his reputation would be greatly affected. Indeed. Fang Qingyun took a deep breath and said slowly, Junior brother Yang, I'll give you time to recuperate. I'll wait here. Once you recover, we'll fight. This battle was inevitable. Yang Ruoxu did not explain further and merely cupped his fists before assuming a lotus position. Su Zimo had already achieved his goal. The reason why he stood out and said that was to buy time. One was time for Yang Ruoxu to recuperate while the other was time for Heaven and Earth Academy to react. If it was long enough and this matter continued to escalate, it would definitely spread to the inner sect or even legacy disciples, attracting even higher-ranking disciplinary elders of the academy to uphold justice. Fang Qingyun was only the number one of the inner sect. Su Zimo did not believe that Fang Qingyun could do anything he wanted in the academy just because of that. What's your name? Just as Su Zimo was pondering, he suddenly felt two sharp gazes shoot over as Fang Qingyun's voice sounded leisurely. Su Zimo. Su Zimo said frankly with a calm expression.
Oh.
Fang Qingyun raised his brow slightly.
So, it's you.
At that moment, Tang Peng and Yan Bingying descended on the sword discourse arena and stood behind Fang Qingyun. Yan Bingying glared at Su Zimo coldly without concealing the disdain in her eyes. So, another lowlife. It's no wonder why he doesn't know how to behave. Right then, a few figures sped over from the direction of the inner sect. Their leader was an old man. Although the badge on his waist was also an inner sect badge, his aura was powerful and even surpassed Fang Qingyun and the others. Unexpectedly, the old man in the lead should be a perfected immortal. The outer sect disciplinary elders were mostly grade 1 and 2 heaven immortals. That way, they would have sufficient strength and methods to enforce the law in the outer sect. Su Zimo thought to himself, if that's the case, there's a high chance that this perfected immortal old man is inner sect disciplinary elder, Elder Jian. Right then, Yang Ruoxu opened his eyes and murmured softly when he saw who it was. Tang Peng and Yan Bingying frowned slightly when they saw Elder Jian. Fang Qingyun was still expressionless as he looked at Su Zimo deeply. He had gradually realized that Su Zimo's provocation earlier on was most likely to buy time for others from the academy to arrive. What happened? After arriving, Elder Jian surveyed his surroundings and finally looked at everyone on the sword discourse arena, asking in a deep voice. Junior brother Pang was killed by Yang Ruoxu on the sword discourse arena. Elder Jian, tell me, should he pay with his life? Tang Peng stood out first and shouted. Elder Jian glanced at Pang Yu's corpse and his pupils constricted as he murmured, the power of time. Pang Yu was not an ordinary disciple. He was one of the top 5 paragons of the inner sect. Furthermore, his background was rather noble. His family was an extremely famous and powerful faction in Divine Firmament mainland. Pang Yu's death in Heaven and Earth Academy was not a small matter. Yang Ruoxu, what do you have to say for yourself? Elder Jian questioned in a deep voice. All these years, for some unknown reason, the upper echelons of the academy thought highly of Yang Ruoxu of the inner sect. Under normal circumstances, Yang Ruoxu would not be ranked number 1 in the inner sect according to his background, combat strength, talent and any other aspects. Although Yang Ruoxu was the only one in the academy who chose to cultivate the extremely difficult Righteousness Sutra, the disadvantage of this cultivation technique was immense and it was not the top cultivation technique in the academy. It was difficult to justify their high regards of him if it was just because of that single fact. Elder Jian only knew one thing. When one cultivated the Righteousness Sutra, they cultivated passion and righteousness. Everything they did had to be done with a clear conscience. Otherwise, the power of this cultivation technique would be greatly reduced and one would enter Qi deviation. Although there were many disciples in the academy, no one would choose this cultivation technique. Who could guarantee that they would have a clear conscience throughout their lives? Who could guarantee that they had never killed an innocent person in their entire life of cultivation without any selfishness? Therefore, when Tang Peng said that, Elder Jian knew that there was definitely more to it. Yang Ruoxu said in a deep voice, this matter began with an outer sect steward who pocketed the essence spirit stones of an outer sect disciple. When Elder Tang sparred with junior brother Su on the sword discourse arena, Elder Tang was no match for him. Coupled with senior brother Pang's instigation, he used an essence spirit secret skill. Most of the people present knew the entire story. This was the first time that Fang Qingyun, Tang Peng, Yan Bingying and the others knew the actual details. Tang Peng and Yan Bingying looked terrible. If it was as Yang Ruoxu had said, be it Elder Tang or Pang Yu, they were in the wrong as they had violated the Academy's rules by releasing killing moves first on the sword discourse arena. Under such circumstances, Yang Ruoxu and Su Zimo's actions were merely in defense. In other words, according to the Academy's rules, Elder Tang and Pang Yu deserve to die. Tang Peng harumphed coldly and said, "You'll naturally choose to say things that are beneficial to you. How can we trust your words?" Actually, even Tang Peng himself did not have much confidence when he said those words. Everyone knew that Yang Ruoxu cultivated the Righteousness Sutra. If he were to spout nonsense, it would definitely result in huge problems for his cultivation. Yang Ruoxu said in a deep voice, "I can make a Tao oath swearing that if I had exaggerated or lied, I'll definitely be punished by the heavens." Tang Peng pouted and did not say anything more. Right from the beginning, Fang Qingyun did not express anything. He knew in his heart that with the arrival of the inner sect disciplinary elders, his words no longer carried much weight. If he wanted to turn the situation around, he would have to rely on someone more powerful. Elder Jian looked around and already understood the situation. If Yang Ruoxu was lying about something that happened in front of everyone, someone would have stood out to refute him. The scene before him proved that Yang Ruoxu was not wrong. Elder Jian coughed gently. Just as he was about to announce the decision on how to deal with this matter, a voice sounded above everyone's heads. Why is it so lively in the outer sect? Chapter 2180. 2180 Meeting Yuhua Again. 2180 Meeting Yuhua Again. The cultivators below were alarmed and looked up instinctively. An auspicious cloud floated above everyone's heads and 7 to 8 figures stood on it. There were men and women with jade sect badges hung on their waists that fluttered slightly. The expressions of the cultivators changed. Nobody below realized when the auspicious cloud above their heads had floated over. Judging from the jade sect badges on their waists, these cultivators on the auspicious cloud were legacy disciples. Legacy disciples of the Academy had appeared. Under normal circumstances, outer sect disciples of the Academy would not have the chance to come into contact with legacy disciples, let alone look up at them at such a close distance. On the auspicious cloud, a man in a moon-colored white robe stood with his hands behind his back. His black hair fluttered and he had an indifferent expression, looking carefree and independent. The other cultivators stood behind him like stars surrounding the moon. The white-robed man's body was tall and straight. Just by standing casually on the auspicious cloud, he was like an unsheathed sword that could slice the firmaments into two. Many cultivators had complicated expressions in their eyes. There was respect, envy, fear and excitement. Nobody noticed that Su Zimo, who was on the sword discourse arena, averted his gaze instinctively and lowered his head slightly when he saw that person. Many outer sect disciples did not recognize who the legacy disciples on the auspicious cloud were. However, Su Zimo recognized the white-robed man leading them. Sword Immortal Yu Hua. Back then, a pure Yang spirit treasure appeared on the Dragon Abyss star and attracted 3 perfected immortals. One of them was Sword Immortal Yu Hua, who was on the auspicious cloud. At that time, Su Zimo was only a mere black immortal and Sword Immortal Yu Hua might not remember him. However, he remembered Sword Immortal Yu Hua. Initially, the reason why Su Zimo did not want to join Heaven and Earth Academy was because he was worried that something might happen if they interacted. He had not expected to encounter Sword Immortal Yu Hua again after joining the Academy for less than 1,000 years. When Yang Ruoxu saw Sword Immortal Yu Hua in the lead, a look of worry flashed through his eyes. On the other side, Fang Qingyun's lips curled. On the auspicious cloud, Sword Immortal Yu Hua had not been looking over the entire time. He stood on the cloud and looked into the distance, as though he was not interested no matter how lively the outer sect was. A man walked down from the auspicious cloud. Elder Jian hurried forward and cupped his fists. "Greetings, Senior Brother Shouds." Although he was a perfected immortal, he was only at the convergence realm and his cultivation realm could not compare to the person before him, Shaoli. Furthermore, although inner sect disciplinary elders possessed immense authority, they could not control legacy disciples. Therefore, Almost all the legacy disciples in the academy had a higher status than the inner sect disciplinary elders. What's going on? Why are there so many people? Shaoli asked. Just as Elder Jian was about to speak, Fang Qingyun, Tang Pang and Yan Bingying welcomed him and bowed. Greetings, senior brother Xiao.
Oh, Qingyun.
It's you guys. Shaoli seemed to be extremely familiar with Fang Qingyun and the others. He nodded slightly and smiled. You guys have to cultivate well and condense your Dao fruits as soon as possible to become perfected immortals. We're waiting for you guys in the academy. Su Zimo had once heard from Princess Scarlet Rainbow that be it the outer or inner sect, neither was the true academy of Heaven and Earth Academy. The true academy was where legacy disciples cultivated, that was the true paradise. When Su Zimo saw how familiar Fang Qingyun and the other two were with Shaoli, he knew that things would not go well. Upon hearing Shaoli's words, Fang Qingyun smiled and nodded as well. Don't worry, senior brother Xiao. Once I obtain the number 1 of the heaven ranking for the academy at the Divine Firmament Immortal Meet, I'll definitely condense a Dao fruit and break through to the perfected immortal realm. At that time, I'll have to seek your guidance, senior brother Xiao.
My cultivation is not enough.
Shaoli shook his head and looked in the direction of the auspicious cloud with a smile. If you guys become legacy disciples, senior brother Yu Hua will naturally be the one to guide you. Fang Qingyun, Tang Pang, Yan Bingying and the others were delighted. Right then, Fang Qingyun sighed and shook his head. Unfortunately, junior brother Pang can no longer join us. Junior brother Pang. Shaoli frowned slightly.
Junior brother Pang you.
Gritting his teeth, Tang Pang glared at Yang Ruoxu and said hatefully, Junior brother Pang was killed by that low-life Yang Ruoxu on the sword discourse arena.
Yang Ruoxu.
When he heard that name, Shaoli's expression changed and a cold glint flashed through his eyes. Instinctively, he looked at Sword Immortal Yu Hua on the auspicious cloud. Sword Immortal Yu Hua did not turn around still. However, the sharpness on his body seemed to have intensified and turned colder. Shaoli understood and turned to look at Yang Ruoxu, saying coldly, since you killed someone on the sword discourse arena, you naturally have to pay with your life. The moment he said that, Yang Ruoxu felt a chilling intent envelop him. It was as though a calamity was about to descend on him the next moment. He was already targeted by the killing intent of a perfected immortal expert. Cough, cough. Gulping, Elder Jian coughed and probed carefully. Senior brother Xiao, there's actually more to this matter.
The reason is,
I don't care if there's anything more to things. Shaoli waved his hand and said in a deep voice, all I know is that junior brother Pang Yu was killed by this person on the sword discourse arena. I have to seek redress for junior brother Pang. After saying that, the killing intent in Shaoli's eyes had already accumulated to its peak and he could attack at any moment. Su Zimo had a grim expression and clenched his fists. Pang Yu was killed by his fleeting moment. Yang Ruoxu was taking the blame for him for this matter. Yang Ruoxu had cultivated in the academy for many years and definitely knew about the many situations in the academy. He only told Su Zimo not to admit it because he expected this to happen. But now that Yang Ruoxu was about to die in Shaoli's hands, Su Zimo could no longer hold it in. He could not let Yang Ruoxu die for him. Su Zimo strode forward and said in a deep voice, Pang Yu.
Silence.
Su Zimo had just said 2 words when Yang Ruoxu's voice sounded in his consciousness. It was vast and righteous, causing his head to buzz and he could not finish his sentence. Yang Ruoxu shifted slightly and blocked Su Zimo behind him. He looked at Shaoli who was in midair fearlessly and shouted. Senior brother Xiao, junior brother Pang did die on the sword discourse arena. However, he tried to kill his fellow sect mates first. You disregarded the academy's rules and wanted to kill me right away without uncovering the truth beforehand. Aren't you afraid of the academy punishing you? What a glib tongue. Shaoli's expression was cold as he said icily. How dare a lowlife who is a mere inner sect disciple threaten me? Let's see who in the academy can punish me for killing you today. With that said, Shaoli released a tremendous spirit consciousness pressure and descended, locking onto Yang Ruoxu's figure to prevent him from teleporting away. At the same time, Shaoli extended his palm and true essence condensed. A gigantic true essence palm materialized and slapped down in Yang Ruoxu's direction mercilessly with a terrifying might. Chapter 2181. 2181 Appearance of Mo Qing. 2181 Appearance of Mo Qing. Crack, crack, crack. Just as the true essence palm was about to descend on Yang Ruoxu and Su Zimo's heads, it was suddenly covered by a layer of frost. In the blink of an eye, it froze into ice and stopped in midair. Xiao Li's expression changed starkly. The cold qi spread rapidly along his true essence to his arm. A layer of bone-chilling ice crystals formed on his entire arm and the bloodline in his arm froze instantly. What was even more frightening was that the cold aura did not show any signs of stopping and followed his arm, wanting to engulf his entire body. Ah! Xiao Li growled and retreated. A ball of light shone behind his head as he channeled his Dao fruit, and all the true essence in his body surged towards his frozen arm. Boom! The ice on Xiao Li's arm shattered and he was out of danger. However, Xiao Li's expression turned extremely terrible and pale. His body trembled slightly and every breath he took was filled with cold air. It was clear that he was injured. Right then, everyone realized that a snow-white butterfly had flown out of nowhere and was dancing around Yang Ruoxu and Su Zimo on the sword discourse arena. Most of the outer sect disciples did not know the origin of the butterfly. However, Xiao Li and the other legacy disciples frowned. Even Sword Immortal Yu Hua, who was standing on the clouds and seemed like he was not involved the entire time, had a change in expression. He glanced sideways in the direction of the sword discourse arena. "Little butterfly, where did you go?" Right then, the voice of a woman sounded from afar. It was gentle and charming with a hint of anxiety and worry. When he heard that voice, the sharpness of Sword Immortal Yu Hua's body suddenly lessened and a gentle look appeared in his eyes. Before long, a graceful woman in a long dress strode over. Her black hair was tied into a bun. Although she wore light makeup, her beautiful eyes were extremely moving and sparkled with every glance. The moment the woman appeared, the clamor of the outer sect quietened down. Almost everyone's gazes were attracted by this woman. Just by standing in midair, it was as though she was one with the surrounding mountains, rivers and plants, forming an ancient ink painting with a distant intent that was natural. Many cultivators forgot to breathe and did not dare to speak. It was as though anyone who made a single sound would break the mental state before them and destroy the beautiful painting. Painting Immortal, Mo Qing. Su Zimo had seen Fairy Mo Qing once during the Immortal sect selection. But now that he was seeing Fairy Mo Qing for the second time, he still felt a sense of amazement. In terms of looks alone, Fairy Mo Qing might not be the most beautiful woman he had ever met. At the very least, she could not compare to Consort Yu. However, Fairy Mo Qing exuded a unique aura that made one's heart flutter. Her existence was a perfect painting to begin with. Actually, when he saw the snow-white butterfly appear, Su Zimo had already guessed that Fairy Mo Qing should be nearby. In everyone's eyes, the ice butterfly seemed to be dancing around Yang Ruoxu. However, in reality, Yang Ruoxu was standing together with Su Zimo. Su Zimo had a feeling that the appearance of the ice butterfly seemed to be because of him. "Junior sister, why are you here?" Sword Immortal Yu Hua moved and welcomed her with a smile. "Senior brother Yu Hua's." Fairy Mo Qing nodded slightly and said, "For some reason, Little Butterfly suddenly ran out. I was worried that it would get into trouble, so I chased after it." "Junior brother Xiao, is your arm all right?" Fairy Mo Qing looked at Xiao Li, who was not far away, and asked softly. It's fine." Xiao Li glanced at Sword Immortal Yu Hua and chuckled dryly. Fairy Mo Qing's gaze landed on the ice butterfly on the sword discourse arena. She frowned slightly and chided softly, "Little butterfly, you're injuring people recklessly again. What are you waiting for? Come on back." All the legacy disciples of the academy knew that this ice butterfly was Fairy Mo Qing's immortal pets. Usually, it would not leave Fairy Mo Qing's side and would only listen to her. The strange thing was that when it heard Fairy Mo Qing summon today, the ice butterfly did not return immediately and continued flying around Yang Ruoxu and Su Zimo. When he saw that, a dark look flashed through the depths of Sword Immortal Yu Hua's eyes. At that moment, Fairy Mo Qing noticed Yang Ruoxu and Su Zimo as well and discovered the abnormality of the situation. "What happened here?" Fairy Mo Qing asked. Elder Jian coughed gently. Just as he was about to speak,
He suddenly felt a chilling intent like a sharp sword hovering around his neck and could not help but shudder.
His gaze shifted to Sword Immortal Yu Hua, who was in midair. Sword Immortal Yu Hua was expressionless and remained silent, merely glancing at him indifferently. However, with that single glance, Elder Jian knew that Sword Immortal Yu Hua was warning him. Although he was an inner sect disciplinary elder, be it in terms of cultivation or status, he was far inferior to Sword Immortal Yu Hua. Sword Immortal Yu Hua was one of the top 3 legacy disciples of the academy. Elder Jian sighed internally and remained silent. When Xiao Li saw Sword Immortal Yu Hua's expression, he understood and smiled. Senior Sister Mo Qing, it's nothing much. It's just a small conflict between the outer sect disciples. They can handle it themselves. Oh. Fairy Mo Qing nodded. Su Zimo looked at Yang Ruoxu. At that moment, Yang Ruoxu lowered his head and remained silent. In fact, he did not even look at Fairy Mo Qing, as though he had no intention of defending himself. Su Zimo was puzzled. The appearance of Fairy Mo Qing was Yang Ruoxu's only chance. Why did he not defend himself? Before long, Su Zimo thought of something and was enlightened. There were already many rumors between Yang Ruoxu and Fairy Mo Qing. At that moment, if Yang Ruoxu were to stand out and defend himself and seek help from Fairy Mo Qing, it would be difficult to explain things between the two of them and the rumors would spread further. The reason why Yang Ruoxu remained silent was because he was worried about Fairy Mo Qing's reputation. Anyone could speak up for this matter except Yang Ruoxu. At that thought, Su Zimo stood out. Everyone else was stunned by the might of Sword Immortal Yu Hua and the others and did not dare to say anything, worried that they would offend the legacy disciples. However, Su Zimo was not afraid. Since Yang Ruoxu helped him with this matter, he would definitely not let Yang Ruoxu endure the pressure of Sword Immortal Yu Hua and the others alone. Furthermore, there was already a conflict between him and Sword Immortal Yu Hua since a long time ago. Greetings, Senior Sister Mo Qing. Su Zimo cupped his fists and said loudly, I was the cause of this matter. Initially. Under the murderous gazes of Sword Immortal Yu Hua, Xiao Li and the others, Su Zimo recounted the entire incident fearlessly. The more Xiao Li and the others listened, the uglier their expressions became. The few of them wished that they could cripple Su Zimo right away. However, with Fairy Mo Qing present, no one could attack. Even Sword Immortal Yu Hua began to retract his sharpness. Fairy Mo Qing looked at Su Zimo on the sword discourse arena and gradually recalled that this green-robed scholar was the cultivator she saved from the immortal sex selection 1,000 years ago. This person sure is bold. He even dares to stand out and tell the truth despite being under the pressure of senior brother Yu Hua and the others. Although Fairy Mo Qing's expression was indifferent, she praised internally. Chapter 2182. 2182 Jealous Killing Intent. 2182 Jealous Killing Intent. Sword Immortal Yu Hua looked at the calm and fearless outer sect disciple on the sword discourse arena and frowned slightly. He had a feeling that the green-robed cultivator looked familiar, as though he had seen him somewhere before. However, he could not recall anything at the moment. Senior Sister Mo Qing. After Su Zimo finished speaking, he bowed once more and said in a deep voice, Everyone present witnessed the entire situation and can testify for me. I believe that the Academy will naturally judge whether it's right or wrong. Senior Sister Mo Qing, please report this matter to the Academy and uphold justice. Su Zimo's request was rather ingenious. He did not ask Fairy Mo Qing for help directly to clash head-on with Sword Immortal Yu Hua and the others. Instead, he asked her to help report it to the Academy. Fairy Mo Qing nodded slightly and said, All right, I'll relay the message to the Academy now. Xiao Li and the others looked at Sword Immortal Yu Hua inquiringly. Sword Immortal Yu Hua shook his head gently. When Fairy Mo Qing appeared, he had already realized that this matter would most likely be left unsettled. I already know about this. Suddenly, an extremely dignified voice sounded above the outer sect. Third Elder. When they heard that voice, the expressions of Sword Immortal Yu Hua, Fairy Mo Qing and the others changed as they bowed slightly in the direction of the Academy.
The third elder of the academy was in charge of all punishments and was the true disciplinary elder of the academy.
Even legacy disciples of the academy would have to be punished if they violated the rules. Chen Shang and Lu Wenbin will be demoted to be servants of the academy and will not be able to join the outer sect for the rest of their lives. The third elder did not waste his breath and announced the punishment for this matter directly. This was an extremely severe punishment for Chen Shang and Lu Wenbin.
Although they were not kicked out of the academy, the two of them could only be servants of Heaven and Earth Academy for the rest of their lives and cultivate at the bottom of the academy.
Chen Shang and Lu Wenbin's faces were ashen. Initially, Lu Wenbin was in the top 20 of the outer sect competition.
However, in the blink of an eye, he had fallen to the bottom and was reduced to a servant.
The two of them had not expected this matter to turn out like this. Even legacy disciples and disciplinary elders of the academy were alarmed. The fight between Tang Yun and Su Zimo on the Sword Discourse arena was originally a normal spar. However, Tang Yun was instigated to use his Essence Spirit secret skill and made the first move. He was killed instead and deserved to die. Pang Yu instigated Tang Yun first before disregarding sect rules to attack Su Zimo on the Sword Discourse arena. He was killed by Yang Ruoxu and deserved it. Many cultivators understood when they heard that. Today's matter was already decided and Elder Tang and Pang Yu would die without getting anything in return. Tang Pang and Yan Bingying looked terrible. On the other hand, Fang Qingyun's expression was calm and emotionless. Su Zimo heaved out a sigh of relief. Although this matter attracted Fang Qingyun, Xiao Li, Sword Immortal Yu Hua and the others, the academy was fair. At the very least, it did not show any bias or suppress others with its might. Yang Ruoxu and Su Zimo are innocent. There's no need for any punishment. Everyone, please leave. The third elder's final statement could be considered as the conclusion. Little butterfly, what are you waiting for? Fairy Mo Qing frowned slightly and hollered at the ice butterfly on the Sword Discourse arena. This time round, the ice butterfly hesitated for a moment and circled around Su Zimo before flapping its wings and flying towards Fairy Mo Qing. Fairy Mo Qing did not stay for long, nor did she look at Yang Ruoxu or Su Zimo. She turned to leave with the ice butterfly. Senior brother. Xiao Li and the others looked at Sword Immortal Yu Hua and called out softly. Let's go too. Sword Immortal Yu Hua's expression changed and the auspicious cloud beneath his feet floated away from the outer sect of the academy.
In the blink of an eye, it disappeared from the line of sight of many cultivators. After leaving the academy, Xiao Li harumphed coldly with a displeased expression and grumbled. It's all the third elder's fault. There's no need for him to step in for such small matters of the outer sect. Sword Immortal Yu Hua remained silent with a dark expression. Senior brother, senior sister Mo Qing's appearance this time round should be a coincidence, right? Xiao Li probed. Another person shook his head. Once might be a coincidence but twice. At that point, Sword Immortal Yu Hua paused for a moment and narrowed his eyes, revealing a sharp killing intent. Initially, although Sword Immortal Yu Hua was displeased when he heard the rumors about Fairy Mo Qing and Yang Ruoxu, he did not take it seriously. In his eyes, Yang Ruoxu was only someone from the lower worlds. As an inner sect disciple, his cultivation was only at the grade 9 heaven immortal realm. The difference between painting Immortal Mo Qing and Yang Ruoxu was way too great. It was like heaven and earth. How could junior sister Mo Qing fancy Yang Ruoxu? Sword Immortal Yu Hua did not take Yang Ruoxu as an opponent at all and did not take him seriously at all. However, this time round, Sword Immortal Yu Hua could not help but suspect something. It was no secret in Heaven and Earth Academy that he was courting Fairy Mo Qing. At the very least, many legacy disciples knew about this. However, Fairy Mo Qing had not agreed to it all these years. Perhaps it was because she was obsessed with the Tao of painting or some other reason. Sword Immortal Yu Hua did not give up either. Although many people in the academy admired Fairy Mo Qing, not many people dared to court her openly. Nobody dared to offend Sword Immortal Yu Hua or taste his moon essence sword casually. Today, Sword Immortal Yu Hua felt personally threatened. In his eyes, that inner sect disciple who was not worth mentioning seemed to truly have an indescribable relationship with junior sister Mo Qing. Mo Qing had a quiet personality and was obsessed with the Tao of painting. She disliked fighting and conflicts. Under normal circumstances,
she would definitely not appear at an occasion like the Immortal sect selection. However, 1,000 years ago, Mo Qing appeared in Coiling Dragon Mountain Range and saved Yang Ruoxu. It was the same today. There was another piece of evidence. The ice butterfly only listened to Mo Qing's orders. Sword Immortal Yu Hua had never seen the ice butterfly so close to anyone. However, today, the ice butterfly had been circling around Yang Ruoxu the entire time. Could the two of them have already developed to such an extent that the ice butterfly has acknowledged Yang Ruoxu? At the thought of this, Sword Immortal Yu Hua's jealousy burned and turned into endless hatred. Fu. Suddenly, Sword Immortal Yu Hua smiled and said, "Very good. I wasn't bothered by the rumors previously. However, this time round, I'll let you understand something. No one can dream about laying their hands on anyone that I fancy. Senior brother, what do you think we should do?" Xueqi made a beheading gesture and asked in a deep voice, "Should we kill him directly?" No. Sword Immortal Yu Hua shook his head and revealed a cold smile. "Isn't it too easy on him to kill him directly? I'm going to turn him into a cripple. A complete cripple." "No problem." Xueqi nodded. Sword Immortal Yu Hua sneered and murmured, "Junior sister, I really don't know what you like about him. This time round, we'll see whether you will still fancy him when he becomes a cripple." Fu. A sinister and cold laughter sounded from the gentle breeze like a fiend from hell. Xueqi and the other disciples of the academy could not help but shudder. Chapter 2183. 2183 Pang Clan. 2183 Pang Clan. Heaven and Earth Academy. After this matter, many cultivators gradually dispersed. However, the shock and impact caused by this matter would continue for a long time in the academy. After Su Zimo joined the outer sect, he entered seclusion and cultivated, almost never appearing. This time round, almost all the outer sect disciples knew that there was a ruthless person among them who killed a disciplinary elder in front of everyone. He alarmed inner sect disciples and legacy disciples one after another but managed to escape unscathed. Although he had only exchanged blows with Elder Teng once, he was already famous in the academy. On the sword discourse arena, Su Zimo bowed deeply to Yang Ruoxu and said sincerely, "Thank you for your help, senior brother Yang. Actually, Elder Tang and Pang, you were both killed by Su Zimo on the sword discourse arena. If Yang Ruoxu had not taken all the pressure for him, he would most likely have been killed by Tang Pang and the others before the legacy disciples appeared." "You don't have to thank me." Yang Ruoxu shook his head gently. "Actually, this calamity of yours was related to me to begin with. Elder Tang was on good terms with Fang Qingyun and the others. Actually, he wanted to target me. However, you were implicated." Su Zimo frowned and asked, "I can see that they have a relatively deep feud with you, senior brother Yang. Is it just because you are from the lower worlds?" "That's only one of the reasons." Yang Ruoxu pondered for a moment and said, "In the academy, things are all right in the outer sect. The fights between disciples are not so obvious. However, there are many internal strifes between inner sect disciples and legacy disciples of the academy. All these years, I can't compare to Fang Qingyun and the others in terms of talent, background and combat strength. However, I represented the academy to host the Immortal sect selection. Naturally, everyone was displeased." "There's another reason." At that point, Yang Ruoxu suddenly paused and shook his head, not continuing. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and understood. The reason was most likely because of painting Immortal Mo Qing. The rumors 1,000 years ago pushed Yang Ruoxu and Fairy Mo Qing to the center of the storm. The disciples of the academy naturally did not dare to criticize Fairy Mo Qing. However, their hostility towards Yang Ruoxu deepened. Furthermore, Sword Immortal Yu Hua was courting Fairy Mo Qing. Even if Sword Immortal Yu Hua did not take the initiative to target Yang Ruoxu, there would probably be people targeting the latter in order to please him. Or rather, no one in the academy dared to stand on the side of Yang Ruoxu. Siding with Yang Ruoxu meant going against Sword Immortal Yu Hua. After today, the situation would only get more obvious. Yang Ruoxu would be completely isolated in the academy. "Try not to have any interactions with me in the academy from now on." Yang Ruoxu suddenly said. Although his expression was calm, there was a hint of loneliness in the depths of his eyes. Senior brother Yang. Su Zimo called out softly. Just as he was about to console Yang Ruoxu, the latter patted him on the shoulder and smiled. You're very good and your methods are decent. That time divine power was truly amazing. However, try not to release it in front of others in the future. At the very least, don't reveal this divine power before you cultivate to the heaven immortal realm. Su Zimo was puzzled and asked, the elders of the academy have already come to a conclusion regarding today's matter. Could there be anyone in the academy who dares to take revenge in private? Naturally, no one in the academy would dare to seek revenge in private. Yang Ruoxu said, however, Pang Yu's background is rather noble. In the divine firmament immortal domain, the Pang clan is considered as a major immortal Dao clan with a long history. Although they can't compare to the 3 immortal kingdoms and 4 immortal sects, the foundation and strength of the Pang clan are not to be underestimated. There are many paragons in the clan, and there's even an immortal king holding down the fort. They're not to be trifled with. Pang Yu is a direct descendant of the Pang clan. The Pang clan will definitely not let this matter rest. Su Zimo finally understood when he heard that. Previously, Yang Ruoxu asked him not to admit it not only because he was worried about the pressure from the academy, but also the threat of the Pang clan outside the academy. Initially, those threats were going to land on him. But now, Yang Ruoxu took on everything alone. Yang Ruoxu looked at Su Zimo's worried eyes and suddenly smiled. You don't have to worry. Although the Pang clan is powerful, they won't dare to cause trouble for me in the academy. Once I break through and condense my Dao fruit, become a perfected immortal and become a legacy disciple of the academy, they might not dare to touch me even outside the academy. No matter which faction they were in, perfected immortal disciples were core existences with the protection of immortal kings. Senior brother Yang, you're amazing. Right then, Princess Scarlet Rainbow sped over and landed on the sword discourse arena. She bowed to Yang Ruoxu and praised. When he saw the outsider, Yang Ruoxu did not continue discussing this matter. He looked at Su Zimo and said, the 10,000-year meet is about to begin and you have yet to reach the peak of grade 9. I'm afraid there will be a tough battle for the Earth ranking. Don't think that you can easily obtain the top of the Earth ranking just because you killed more than 100 Earth execution guards at the Immortal Sex selection single-handedly. Many paragons and monster incarnates will appear at the 10,000-year meet to fight for the number 1 of the Earth ranking. Their methods might not lose to yours. You must not be careless. Su Zimo nodded. Suddenly, a figure flashed through his mind and he asked, will Yun Ting be there? Prince Yun Ting of the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom. Yang Ruoxu was no stranger to that name and shook his head. He won't go. According to the news I received, he has already cultivated to become a heaven immortal. So fast. A look of shock flashed through Su Zimo's eyes before turning into regret. Noticing Su Zimo's gaze, Yang Ruoxu could not help but ask, you actually feel a little regretful when you heard that Prince Yun Ting will not be taking part in the fight for the Earth ranking? Are you viewing him as a rival? Yes. Su Zimo nodded. There will be a battle between us sooner or later. He possessed the heaven and earth slaying sword arts. Yun Ting possessed the human slaying sword art. Both of them wanted to snatch the other sword art and fuse the 3 great sword arts. Impressive, you have the courage to view Yun Ting as a rival. Yang Ruoxu nodded slightly. Who will lead us to the Yen-Yang Immortal Kingdom for the Earth ranking this time round? Suddenly, Su Zimo asked. He had already formed a feud with Fang Qingyun and the others. If Fang Qingyun led the group, it was difficult to guarantee that nothing would go wrong. You don't have to worry about that. Yang Ruoxu said, the elders of the inner sect will be bringing you guys there this time round. What you have to do is to do your best to obtain the number 1 of the Earth ranking. Pausing for a moment, Yang Ruoxu continued, right, there will be an additional reward for the number 1 in the academy. The secret pavilion in the academy contains many cultivation techniques, secret skills, divine powers and immortal arts. However, one will require contribution points from the sect if they want to browse through the secret pavilion and borrow anything to cultivate. However, if you obtain the number 1 of the Earth ranking, you can enter the Earth grade secret pavilion and browse through all the secret skills and cultivation techniques without restrictions. Su Zimo's eyes lit up when he heard that. Chapter 2184. 2184 Chance Encounter in the Capital. 2184 Chance Encounter in the Capital. For others, they did not have the time and energy to cultivate too many cultivation techniques and divine powers. If any other cultivator obtained the reward for being the top of the Earth ranking, they would have to choose the best cultivation techniques and secret skills in the Earth-grade secret pavilion to cultivate. However, it was different for Su Zimo. The martial Dao prime body was deducing the next step of the cultivation dermic formulation, and would not reject any cultivation techniques or secret skills. He did not need to cultivate and merely used the martial Dao furnace to smelt all the cultivation techniques and secret skills to search for what he needed and inspiration. No matter what, Su Zimo was determined to get to the top of the Earth ranking this time round. After a period of cultivation, the Academy activated the teleportation formation when it was close to the 10,000-year meet. 3 Heaven Immortal Elders of the Academy led Su Zimo, Princess Scarlet Rainbow and dozens of others to the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom through the teleportation formation. If they were flying normally, the distance between the two places would be far. Even a grade 9 Heaven Immortal would require a few years to reach the capital of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom. However, using the teleportation formation, it only took dozens of breaths. Su Zimo and the others felt their vision go adrift, as though countless shadows were passing by. They felt a sense of weightlessness as though their bodies were being pulled and twisted. Thereafter, everyone landed on the ground and everything returned to normal. The moment everyone arrived at the capital of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom, they could clearly sense that this place was different from the Academy. The temperature here was much higher than in the Academy and was a little stuffy. Everywhere was a fiery red. All the structures were made of red bricks and some of them were even burning with thin flames that lasted for a long time. The Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom was filled with flames everywhere. I'm back. When Princess Scarlet Rainbow returned, she took a deep breath with a satisfied expression. She had lived in the capital since she was young and was long used to the environment here. Greetings, fellow Taoists. After everyone from the Academy appeared, guards near the teleportation formation walked over quickly and cupped their fists. The guards wore fiery red armor that emitted a scorching heat like metal plates. The guards swept their gazes across the waists of Su Zimo and the others and recognized their backgrounds. Fellow Taoists of Heaven and Earth Academy, you should be here for the 10,000-year meet, right? Prince Xie Ling has already instructed me to bring you guys to the palace to rest. A guard said in a deep voice. There's no need. Princess Scarlet Rainbow waved her hand. I can bring them there. Elder Zhong, Elder He, this is the first time everyone from the Academy is here. Let me show you guys around the capital. As for the resting palace, I know the location. I'll bring everyone there when the time comes. That works too. Elder Zhong nodded with a smile. Princess Scarlet Rainbow patted Su Zimo gently on the shoulder and teased, let's go. I'm familiar with this place. I'll show you around the capital, kiddo. The other cultivators of the Academy were curious as well and agreed. Su Zimo smiled and nodded. When they walked out of the teleportation formation area and arrived on the streets of the capital, they could feel the clamor and bustle of the capital. Due to the 10,000-year meet, the capital was filled with cultivators from the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Most of them were Earth Immortals. Even so, the wide streets of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom did not seem crowded. On both sides of the streets, cultivators from different sects and factions set up stalls selling various items. This 10,000-year meet was an immortality cultivation event that happened once every 10,000 years in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. The fight for the Earth ranking was only the main event. Most cultivators were not qualified to take part in the fight for the Earth ranking. To them, the 10,000-year meet was more importantly a grand event for exchanges and transactions between cultivators. Princess Scarlet Rainbow led Su Zimo and the others along the main street of the capital while explaining some interesting places in the capital. Exalted Immortal, we were the ones who took a liking to this iron sword first. Furthermore, we've already paid Essence Spirit Stones. How can you snatch it by force? Right then, a clamor came from the side of the street not far ahead. Bullshit! Since when did our young master snatch your things? Someone cursed. Thereafter, There was a loud sound, as though someone had been slapped. The person continued cursing. Our young master gave you double the essence spirit stones and you're still not satisfied? That slap is a lesson for you. Glancing over, Su Zimo suddenly frowned and paused. Something like this happened everywhere daily, and he had no intention of paying attention to it initially. However, he caught sight of someone familiar through the crowd. When Princess Scarlet Rainbow saw Su Zimo looking over, she said, "The person who hit him is from the Xue clan. In the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain, they are considered as a major immortal Dao clan. For every Earth ranking, the Xue clan will have someone on it." Before Princess Scarlet Rainbow could finish, Su Zimo had already walked over. Everyone from the academy exchanged puzzled glances and followed suit. In the crowd, there were dozens of people from the Xue clan surrounding a young and handsome man. The person lowered his head slightly and scrutinized a rusty iron sword in his hands. In front of him was a slave-like cultivator. Although he was short, he had an overbearing attitude as he looked at the two people opposite him and gestured while cursing. The two people opposite him were a middle-aged man and a young man in ordinary robes. The middle-aged man was a grade 4 Earth Immortal while the young man was only a grade 9 Black Immortal. Half of the young man's face was swollen and there was a red palm print on it with blood seeping out. He glared at everyone from the Xue clan angrily. The middle-aged man had a worried expression and shielded the young man behind him, afraid that the latter would make a huge mistake out of impulse. Hurry and pick up the essence spirit stones and leave. It's better to avoid trouble. The two of you are just ordinary cultivators of Water Cloud Sword Sect. How can an unknown black grade sect compare to the Xue clan? Do you have a death wish? It's already not bad that young Master Xue is willing to give you essence spirit stones. Yet, you're not satisfied? The surrounding crowd discussed, some out of goodwill and some mocking. The middle-aged man sighed and squatted down slowly, reaching out to pick up a few essence spirit stones on the ground. Although the Xue clan had given them the essence spirit stones, they were thrown on the ground casually. Even if the middle-aged man was displeased, he could only endure it. The moment his palm touched an essence spirit stone, a foot stomped down at an extremely fast and powerful speed. Crack! He could not dodge in time and his palm was snapped. Ugh! The middle-aged man grunted and a layer of sweat appeared on his forehead instantly. He grit his teeth and trembled slightly. The servant of the Xue clan stepped forward and stomped on the middle-aged man's palm. Although he was only a servant of the Xue clan, his cultivation realm was at the level 6 Earth Essence realm and was 2 minor realms above the middle-aged man. "Father!" the young man exclaimed and took a few steps forward. He glared at the Xue clan servant opposite him and growled, "You dog, let go of my father." "Xiaotian, shut up!" The middle-aged man hollered before raising his head slowly. He looked at the Xue clan servant and squeezed out a smile. "My child is too young and inexperienced. He doesn't know the rules. Exalted Immortal, please spare him this once." Chapter 2185. 2185 Name of the Academy. 2185 Name of the Academy. Initially, I had no intention of stooping to your level. All you had to do was scram over obediently and apologize to my young master. The Xue clan servant stepped on the middle-aged man's palm and glared at the young man not far away coldly. "However, you're a brat with a dirty mouth. How dare you scold me?" "Exalted Immortal, please calm down." Enduring the sharp pain in his palm, the middle-aged man forced a smile. "We don't want these essence spirit stones anymore. Take that iron sword as a gift for young Master Xue as an apology. Exalted Immortal, please show mercy." "Foo-foo." The Xue clan servant smiled smugly and glared at the young man not far away, cursing, "Brat, hurry and kneel down. Slap yourself." The young man's face was filled with rage and his swollen cheeks were filled with blood that had already turned purplish. "Brat, you're indignant." The Xue clan servant cursed as he stomped on the middle-aged man's severed arm. The middle-aged man trembled in pain but remained silent. When he saw that, the young man's eyes were filled with tears and he could no longer hold on. Closing his eyes, he bent his knees and knelt on the ground. Suddenly, before the young man's knees touched the ground, He felt a tremendous resistance lifting his body slowly.
The young man was stunned and looked over instinctively.
Unknowingly, someone had appeared beside him. This person had moved to help him up. The person had refined features and wore green robes. Although thousands of years had passed, the young man recognized him at a glance and exclaimed, "Brother Su, it's you." Su Zimo nodded. The two of them had not seen each other for thousands of years, and Su Zimo's appearance had not changed much. However, Su Xiaotian had already grown up. Those two were the former city lord of Dragon Abyss City, Su Shi, and his child, Su Xiaotian. At that time, when Su Zimo left the Dragon Abyss Star for Green Cloud County, it was Su Shi who pointed out the direction for him. "Brother Su." Su Shi turned to look at Su Zimo, and a look of joy appeared on his pale face. Just as he said that, he realized something and changed his words hurriedly. "Exalted Immortal Su, it's been a long time. Take your feet away." Su Zimo looked at the servant of the Xue clan and said coldly, "Why? You think that you can threaten me just because your cultivation realm is 2 levels higher than mine?" When the Xue clan servant checked that Su Zimo was a grade 8 Earth Immortal, he was not afraid at all and sneered. "Why don't you open your eyes and see who you're talking to? How dare you provoke someone from the Xue clan?" Suddenly, a figure crossed 100 feet and arrived before the Xue clan servant in the blink of an eye. The voice of the Xue clan servant stopped abruptly. Immediately after, the figure of the Xue clan servant was sent flying.
While he was in midair, his heart exploded and an arrow of blood spurted out from his chest as the sound of bones cracking could be heard from his body.
By the time the Xue clan servant fell to the ground, his entire body was as soft as mud and his tendons and bones were shattered, turning his organs into a puddle of blood. His entire body was severely injured and completely crippled. It was only then that the surrounding crowd reacted and exclaimed. Many cultivators of the Xue clan were alerted and their palms landed on their storage bags, ready to summon their dermic treasures at any moment as they glared at Su Zimo with unfriendly expressions. Young Master Xue, who was protected by everyone from the Xue clan, frowned slightly as well and raised his head to look at Su Zimo. His gaze landed on the sect badge on Su Zimo's waist and paused for a moment. Su Zimo helped Su Shi up. Su Shi was not severely injured. Given his cultivation as an Earth Immortal, he would recover completely after recuperating for a while. However, it was different for the Xue clan servant. His body was crippled by Su Zimo, leaving only a frightened essence spirit. He ran to young Master Xue and cried loudly, "Exalted Immortal, be careful. The Xue clan is powerful. Please don't be implicated because of us." Su Shi said softly with a worried expression. He knew very well that even if everyone from his sect, Water Cloud Sword Sect, were here, they would not dare to offend young Master Xue, let alone the fact that Su Zimo was a grade 8 Earth Immortal. A single sentence from young Master Xue could raise the entire Water Cloud Sword Sect to the ground.
"Young Master, you have to uphold justice for me."
The essence spirit of the Xue clan servant dimmed as he ran over and lamented. "Although I'm only a dog of the Xue clan, those who want to attack me have to be wary of my masters. This person attacked me directly and disregarded your status. He's simply looking down on the Xue clan." Poof! Before the person could finish, young Master Xue suddenly waved the iron sword in his hands and sliced the person's essence spirit into 2. The servant died on the spot with his essence spirit destroyed. Even till his death, this person had not expected that he would die in the hands of his master. "Greetings, fellow Taoist. I'm Xue Yuan. My servant is blind and offended you, so I killed him for you. You don't have to stoop to his level, fellow Taoist." Young Master Xue cupped his fists towards Su Zimo and greeted with a smile. "How may I address you, fellow Taoist?" Xue Yuan's attitude surprised Su Shi and his son. Xue Yuan was a grade 9 Earth Immortal to begin with. Most of the Xue clan cultivators around him were also grade 8 or 9 Earth Immortals and were extremely strong. Logically speaking, Xue Yuan should not show weakness. Many cultivators watching were puzzled as well and discussed softly. What's the background of this person to be able to make young Master Xue back down? The sect badge on that person's waist looks familiar. It seems to be Heaven and Earth Academy. Someone exclaimed. The moment those words were said, it was like a stone that caused 1,000 levels of waves, causing a huge reaction in the crowd. Heaven and Earth Academy of the Four Immortal Sects. Disciples of the Academy have appeared. Su Shi and Su Xiaotian were shocked. Although they had heard of the four immortal sects, such sects were way beyond their reach. Compared to Heaven and Earth Academy, the Water Cloud Sword sect they were in was like an insignificant ant. Back in Dragon Abyss City, Su Shi could tell that Su Zimo had a lot of potential. However, he could not imagine that after just a few thousand years, this scholarly man had already joined Heaven and Earth Academy, one of the four immortal sects. Back in Dragon Abyss City, Su Shi's cultivation realm was even higher than Su Zimo's. But now, the difference between the two of them was like heaven and earth. It was no wonder why Xueqi would have such an attitude. Although the Xue clan was a major immortal Dao clan with immense strength and a deep foundation, they were slightly inferior compared to Heaven and Earth Academy. Return that sword to them. Su Zimo did not reply to Xueqi's question. Instead, he pointed to the iron sword in Xueqi's hands. Xueqi frowned slightly with a hesitant expression before saying with a smile, "Fellow Taoist, I spent essence spirit stones to buy this sword. Even if you're a disciple of the Academy, you can't snatch it by force, right?" Naturally, the reason why he was here was to take part in the 10,000-year meet and fight for a spot on the Earth ranking. Given his methods and combat strength, he should be able to be ranked around 50 on the Earth ranking. Therefore, he was not afraid at all when he saw that Su Zimo was only a grade 8 Earth Immortal. More importantly, the Xue clan had produced an even more powerful paragon in this generation that was right behind him. The combat strength of this paragon could definitely be ranked in the top 20 of the Earth ranking. 2 Earth ranking experts. That was Xueqi's confidence. Chapter 2186. 2186 Thunderous Method. 2186 Thunderous Methods. Apart from the 2 potential Earth ranking experts, the reason why Xueqi dared to challenge a disciple of the Academy was because this was the capital of the Yen-Yang Immortal Kingdom. If a conflict was too serious, the capital guards would definitely come to maintain order. There was something strange about the iron sword. Since he had already obtained it, there was no reason for him to give it up. "Aren't you going to return it?" Su Zimo murmured softly with a calm tone. Xueqi smiled gently. Just as he was about to speak and continue beating around the bush, he felt his vision blur as a figure tore through the air with a suffocating aura. Su Zimo had already closed in and was less than a foot away. It was too fast. Earlier on, he was a refined and scholarly scholar. In the blink of an eye, he seemed to have transformed into an ancient beast that could devour the world. His malevolent qi was almost corporeal as it surged over. Xueqi's heart skipped a beat and his expression changed. He was fearful and his aura was suppressed instantly. This is bad. Xueqi's heart skipped a beat. At that moment, he realized that he had lost the initiative and would definitely not be able to defend against Su Zimo's next attack. Retreat! Xueqi retreated rapidly. Before he could summon his dermic treasure, he conjured hand seals with both hands and channeled his spirit consciousness to condense divine powers. At the same time, a phantom-like figure appeared behind him and his blood qi burst forth with the sound of a tsunami. He raised his fist and punched towards Su Zimo who was approaching. It was Dou Yuan, the one who could potentially be ranked in the top 20 of the Earth ranking. Initially, Dou Yuan's background was ordinary. However, because of his outstanding talent, he was selected by the Xue clan and groomed intensively. Gradually, he became famous in the Divine Firmament Immortal domain. After the fight for the Earth ranking this time round, the Xue clan was prepared to grant him the surname Xue. Scram! Su Zimo hollered and punched towards Dou Yuan's fist without even looking at him. Bang! The fists collided and the surrounding void shook. The sound of bones grinding echoed in an extremely jarring manner. Su Zimo paused for a moment and stomped on the ground, causing the long street to tremble. His speed increased once more as he chased after Xueqi. Dou Yuan's expression changed starkly as he retreated in succession. Every single step landed heavily on the long street, letting out reverberating echoes. "You're quite capable to be able to take a punch from me." Su Zimo brushed past Dou Yuan and said indifferently. Initially, Dou Yuan intended to knock Su Zimo back with his punch. However, he did not expect that his punch merely caused Su Zimo to pause for a moment. As for him, he was almost sent flying and his tsunami blood chi was disrupted by Su Zimo's punch. The reason why he was thought to be able to be ranked in the top 20 of the Earth ranking was because he had a strong physique, shocking stamina, surging blood chi and terrifying melee combat strength. However, he had not expected that he would be forced back by a single punch from a seemingly frail scholar today. When Dou Yuan saw Su Zimo rushing toward Xue Yuan, he wanted to step forward and save Xue Yuan. However, the moment he moved, he felt his chest churn. He hurriedly raised his sleeves and covered his face. Thereafter, he opened his mouth and spat out an arrow of blood that splattered on his sleeves. At that moment, everyone's attention was drawn to Su Zimo and no one saw that. Dou Yuan was shocked. He was injured with a single punch. Who was this academy disciple? On the other side, Su Zimo's speed was shocking and he caught up to Xue Yuan who was retreating in the blink of an eye.
With a burning gaze, he extended his palm and condensed the great chaos essence palm to suppress the latter.
Kill! Xue Yuan roared and released his greater divine power, the Azura Dao. At the same time, the Xue clan guards around him attacked one after another. Some of them summoned dermic treasures, some released immortal arts and some condensed divine powers. Break! Against the surrounding dermic treasures, immortal arts and divine powers, Su Zimo did not dodge or avoid and shouted. Although the voice was not as terrifying as the Dragon Roar secret skill, it contained the dermic formulation of the sound domain secret skills such as Thunderclap Kill. The expressions of the surrounding Xue clan guards changed. The divine powers and immortal arts that were just condensed dissipated. The dermic treasures that were summoned fell from midair as well. The guards had pained expressions and hugged their heads with both hands. They felt a sharp pain in their ears as their minds buzzed and went blank. These people could barely protect themselves, let alone Xue Yuan. Su Zimo did not activate the Dragon Roar secret skill directly. On the one hand, it was his trump card and he would not use it casually. On the other hand, the Xue clan guards would most likely be shocked to death if the Dragon Roar secret skill was released. Su Zimo merely wanted to teach Xue Yuan a lesson and retrieve the iron sword. He did not want to start a massacre and there was no deep feud between them. On the other side, Dou Yuan's blood chi had already calmed down. The moment he moved forward, he heard that shout before he could attack. His blood chi rumbled and he could not hold it in any longer. He covered his lips hurriedly and spat out another mouthful of blood. Xue Yuan, who was the closest, shuddered as well. However, his physique was extraordinary and he grit his teeth to defend against it. Although his greater divine power showed signs of dissipating, it did not disappear. Right then, the great chaos essence palm descended. Boom! Even the materialized Azura Dao might not be able to defend against Su Zimo's great chaos essence palm, let alone a greater divine power that was almost dispersed. The Azura Dao was destroyed by a single palm strike and a gigantic palm descended. Xue Yuan had nowhere to run as he gripped the iron sword in his hands and stabbed in reverse. When the great chaos essence palm descended and was about to make contact with the iron sword, all the power suddenly dissipated. That ferocious and crushing power suddenly turned into a gentle power. There was no sluggishness in the transition between toughness and softness. It was astounding. Su Zimo placed his palm on the iron sword. With a coil and a tremble, he snatched the iron sword away barehanded. At the same time, he took another step forward and pushed down on Xue Yuan's chest. You! Xue Yuan's heart skipped a beat and his reaction was extremely fast. He retracted his entire chest as though it had caved in. At the same time, he pulled back his arm and blocked in front of him. Humph! Su Zimo sneered and pushed Xue Yuan's arm gently before retreating. Crack! Xue Yuan's arm was snapped. Crack! 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 Immediately after, a series of crackling sounds came from Xue Yuan's chest, as though beans were being fried. His body went limp and he collapsed to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. A gigantic and clear palm print appeared on Xue Yuan's chest. Pest! Everyone gasped. Earlier on, Su Zimo's palm strike seemed light and powerless. To think that it would possess such a terrifying might. Not only did he snap Xue Yuan's arm, the latter's sternum was shattered and his heart was ruptured. Both parties exchanged blows extremely quickly. From the moment Su Zimo attacked till the end, it only took 4 to 5 breaths. Su Zimo was still standing where he was exactly, as though he had never moved. His green robes were spotless without any wrinkles. However, there was an additional iron sword in his hands. As for the Xue clan opposite, they were in a mess. Dou Yuan's expression was terrible. The Xue clan guards were at a loss and Xue Yuan had fallen to the ground, severely injured. Such thunderous methods created a massive commotion in the crowd nearby. Chapter 2187. 2187 defeated. 2187 defeated. Who is that? His methods are so terrifying that even 2 experts who have the potential to be ranked on the Earth ranking were suppressed by him. I'm not sure. The ranking for the outer sect competition of the Academy has long been spread. There doesn't seem to be any Earth immortal with the aura of a scholar. More and more cultivators gathered here. Some of them could recognize the other disciples of the Academy, but they had never seen Su Zimo before. Ever since Su Zimo joined the Academy, he had been in seclusion. Cultivators who joined the Academy were normally grade 8 or 9 Earth Immortals and did not need to cultivate in seclusion. Most of these outer sect disciples would accept the many missions assigned by the Academy and train in the Divine Firmament Immortal domain. While completing the missions, they would gradually make a name for themselves. Someone suddenly said, "Don't forget, at the Immortal sect selection 1,000 years ago, the Academy accepted a ruthless person." You're referring to that guy with the surname Su? The one who killed more than 100 execution guards of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom? That's right, that's him. His name is Su Zimo. The discussions in the crowd grew louder and louder. What happened? A few figures pushed through the crowd and barged in. Their expressions changed when they saw the injured Xue Yuan and the others. "Uncle, you're here." With a pained expression, Xue Yuan wiped away the blood at the corner of his lips. The cultivation realms of the Xue clan cultivators were all at the Heaven Essence realm. There were 3 grade 8 Heaven Immortals and a grade 9 Heaven Immortal. Xue Yuan's uncle, Xie Qingcheng, was a grade 9 Heaven Immortal and was quite famous in the Divine Firmament Immortal domain. Who did this? Xie Qingcheng hollered and followed Xue Yuan's gaze. Turning around, he locked onto Su Zimo with a murderous expression. But soon, his expression changed and the killing intent in his eyes lessened significantly. He caught sight of the sect badge on Su Zimo's waist. It was the badge of Heaven and Earth Academy. A disciple of the Academy? Xue Qian's expression was terrible. Su Zimo felt emotional when he sensed the change in Xue Qian. After he joined the Academy, he cultivated in seclusion. After coming out of seclusion, he merely had a conflict and fought against 2 people in the outer sect. He had never left the Academy nor roamed the world outside. It was only at this moment that he experienced the power of Heaven and Earth Academy. The killing intent of this grade 9 Heaven Immortal from a major Immortal Dao clan had already been condensed to its limits and could injure anyone at any moment. However, when that person saw the Academy's badge on his waist, his expression clearly changed and he revealed a wary expression. Ever since Su Zimo appeared to settle this matter, no one else from the Academy interfered. Even so, Xue Qian and the others did not dare to act rashly. The fight between Xue Yuan and Dou Yuan could be considered as a spar between cultivators of the same cultivation realm. It was nothing much. However, if Xue Qian attacked Su Zimo, he would be bullying someone beneath his level and Heaven and Earth Academy would definitely not tolerate it. The terror of the Academy was still reflected in the surrounding cultivators. Su Zimo could clearly sense that everyone was looking at him with reverence, admiration and even awe. This was an experience he had never experienced after ascending and escaping for thousands of years. He came from the lower worlds. After he ascended, in the eyes of many cultivators, his status was inferior. However, at that moment, it was as though there was a halo above his head. A disciple of the Academy. In the Divine Firmament Immortal domain, no one dared to underestimate disciples of the Academy. The disciples of the Academy sure are impressive. They can attack people casually before the fight for the Earth ranking even begins? Xue Qian looked at Su Zimo with a mocking tone. I wouldn't dare to. Su Zimo said indifferently. The academy can't compare to the Xue clan. You guys can snatch the items of others just because you fancy it. How domineering. Xue Qian frowned slightly and looked down at Xue Yuan, who was sitting on the ground. Xue Yuan felt guilty and did not dare to meet Xue Qian's gaze.
Everyone had witnessed this and he did not dare to lie.
Xue Qian cursed internally. He knew that they were in the wrong and today's matter would most likely be left unsettled. Why are so many people gathered here? Right then, a dignified voice sounded from the distant skies. Xue Qian's eyes lit up. In the capital of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom, other than the guards of the capital or perfected immortal experts, other cultivators could not fly in the capital. Given the commotion here, the capital guards must have arrived. He was wary of the academy, but the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom was not. The Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom was a behemoth that was comparable to Heaven and Earth Academy. Furthermore, this was the capital of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom. No matter how strong the disciples of the academy were, they had to abide by the rules of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom. It was not convenient for him to attack, but he could make use of the power of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom to teach this academy disciple a lesson. At that thought, Xue Qian turned around and looked at a group of capital guards speeding over from midair. He cupped his fists. Greetings, Commander. I'm Xue Qian of the Xue clan. Fellow Taoist Xue, I've heard a lot about you. When the capital commander saw that it was Xue Qian of the Xue clan, his expression softened as he nodded slightly and cupped his fists in return. Xue Qian pointed at Su Zimo and said in a deep voice, just because he's a disciple of the academy, this person here fought in the capital and injured many of our Xue clan members in succession. I didn't lay my hands on this person because this is the capital of the Immortal Kingdom and I don't want to cause chaos in the capital. Please uphold justice for the Xue clan, Commander. The capital commander frowned slightly and turned to look at Su Zimo with a troubled expression. If it was any ordinary cultivator, he would just capture them and imprison them for a few days to teach them a lesson. However, this was a disciple of Heaven and Earth Academy. Commander Xian. Just as he was in a dilemma, a woman's voice sounded from the crowd.
Instinctively, he looked in the direction of the voice and saw a woman in scarlet armor in the crowd come to Su Zimo's side with a smile.
Long time no see, Commander Xian. Greetings, Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Commander Xian was stunned and bowed hurriedly. The many capital guards behind him bowed as well. Xue Qian was stunned and had a bad feeling. Princess Scarlet Rainbow waved her hand. There's nothing major here. It's just that the young master of the Xue clan snatched someone else's belongings. My junior brother could not take it lying down and merely sparred with young Master Xue in a friendly manner. It's nothing serious. This was a friendly spar. Commander Xian glanced at Xue Yuan, who was slumped on the ground, and muttered internally. Young Master Xue was severely injured and would most likely not have a chance to take part in the fight for the Earth ranking. He had long heard that Princess Scarlet Rainbow had joined Heaven and Earth Academy. Now that Princess Scarlet Rainbow had appeared, he retreated hurriedly. I see. Commander Xian nodded slightly and said, Indeed, there will often be small conflicts in the capital. As long as it's nothing serious, it's nothing much. That's right. Princess Scarlet Rainbow said with a smile. Commander Xian, patrol elsewhere. There's nothing much here and we'll disperse before long. I'll take my leave. Commander Xian cupped his fists once more and left with the capital guards behind him, disappearing before long. Xue Qian was so angry that he nearly vomited blood. Farewell. Xue Qian's face turned green and purple. Finally he said those words and supported Xue Yuan, turning to leave with everyone from the Xue clan, disappearing into the crowd. Chapter 2188. 2188 Xie Qingcheng. 2188 Xie Qingcheng. Scarlet Rainbow. Right then, a man's call sounded not far away. It was intimate and magnetic. One could feel a warm power just by listening to his voice. Su Zimo glanced sideways and saw a white-robed man walking over slowly from the long street not far away. Su Zimo was slightly stunned when he saw that person. The surrounding cultivators exclaimed as well. This man was way too beautiful and his features were handsome without any flaws. He was like a jade statue and was even prettier than many fairies and beauties.
If not for his preconceived notion that this was a man's voice, in this sudden encounter, Su Zimo would not have believed that the person before him was a man.
Princess Scarlet Rainbow was already a rare beauty. However, she was slightly inferior in front of this person. The appearance of the white-robed man was way too dazzling. At that moment, all the cultivators on the long street, be it men or women, paled in comparison.
That's a man.
Su Zimo looked at the person in confusion. Brother Qingcheng. When Princess Scarlet Rainbow saw who it was, her eyes lit up and she was filled with smiles as she ran over and threw herself into the person's embrace. Su Zimo was finally certain when he heard her address him as Brother Qingcheng. He looked around.
On both sides of the long street, there were still many cultivators staring at the white-robed man in a daze, as though they had lost their souls.
Among them, female cultivators were not the only ones. Even male cultivators were not spared. Qingcheng. Su Zimo thought to himself, this person's name is rather apartment. Indeed, he is devastatingly beautiful one. Brother Qingcheng, why are you here? Princess Scarlet Rainbow raised her head and asked coquettishly. The white-robed man had a doting expression as he chuckled. You went out to cultivate alone and didn't come home to visit after such a long time. I missed you.
Aren't I back now?
Princess Scarlet Rainbow pouted her lips.
In front of the white-robed man, Princess Scarlet Rainbow did not have the slightest bit of arrogance as a princess. Instead, her tone carried a hint of wheedling. It was clear that the two of them were rather close.
As the white-robed man chatted with Princess Scarlet Rainbow, he even raised his head and looked at everyone from Heaven and Earth Academy with a smile. The white-robed man's gaze seemed to sweep past everyone from the academy, but he did not seem to ignore anyone. After coming into contact with everyone, it felt like a spring breeze. Princess Scarlet Rainbow chatted with the white-robed man for a while more before coming to a realization.
She pulled the white-robed man to the front of everyone from the academy and said, Brother Qingcheng, these are the elders of our academy.
These are my fellow sect mates, the top 20 Earth Immortal Paragons of the Outer Sect competition. After a brief pause, Princess Scarlet Rainbow pointed to the white-robed man and said to everyone from the academy, This is my brother. Greetings, elders and fellow Taoists. I'm Xie Qingcheng. The white-robed man cupped his fists towards everyone from the academy with a smile. So, it's Prince Qingcheng. We've heard a lot about you. The elders of the academy exchanged glances and returned the greeting hurriedly. Xie Qingcheng's cultivation realm was around a grade 5 heaven immortal, and could not compare to the elders of the academy.
However, he was a prince of the young immortal kingdom after all, and the elders of the academy did not dare to be negligent.
My status as a prince is merely a title. Xie Qingcheng smiled gently. I'm of the same generation as Scarlet Rainbow and can be considered as a junior compared to you guys. Elders, please just call me fellow Taoist.
And no.
The elders of the academy declined hurriedly. After ascending, Su Zimo had seen some princes and princesses as well. Xie Qingcheng was the only one who did not have the airs of a prince and was approachable.
Born in the royal family and possessing the bloodline of the royal family, it was indeed rare for him to possess such bearing and temperament.
Brother Qingcheng, he's Su Zimo. Right then, Princess Scarlet Rainbow pointed to Su Zimo in the middle of everyone from the academy and added, Greetings, fellow Taoist Su. Xie Qingcheng cupped his fists towards Su Zimo once more and smiled. Scarlet Rainbow has not returned home all these years. However, she often mentions you in her letters. Brother, you're the best to me.
You're the only one who came to receive me personally.
When she heard Xie Qingcheng mention this, Princess Scarlet Rainbow blushed and hurriedly changed the topic. Second brother merely sent a guard to greet us at the teleportation formation. Your second brother has to prepare to host the 10,000-year meet. Naturally, he has a lot of work to do and can't leave. Xie Qingcheng said, I have nothing much to do as a prince, so I came to pick you up. Let's go. I've already prepared a banquet in the palace to welcome you guys.
Sure.
Princess Scarlet Rainbow said, Elder Zhong, Elder He, Su Zimo, let's go together. Everyone from the academy did not decline and prepared to leave with Xie Qingcheng. In the crowd, Su Shi looked at Su Zimo who was in the middle of everyone from the academy with envy, admiration and emotions. In just a few thousand years,
the scholar from the Dragon Abyss Star had already grown to such an extent. He single-handedly suppressed the major immortal Dao clan, the Xue clan, so badly that they did not dare to retaliate. He could still stand here and chat merrily with the princes and princesses of the Yan-Yang immortal kingdom. There was only yearning and longing in Su Xiaotian's eyes. That's how life as a human should be led. Su Xiaotian murmured softly. Forget it, no matter how much we struggle, we can't win against fate. Su Shi sighed gently. Our lives will not be wasted if we can make a name for ourselves in Water Cloud Sword Sect. Water Cloud Sword Sect was only a black grade sect and had limited cultivation resources. Su Shi knew that the difference between them would only increase. I almost forgot that I haven't returned this sword to you. Just as Su Shi and Su Xiaotian were feeling emotional, a voice sounded. Unknowingly, Su Zimo had arrived before the two of them and handed them the rusty iron sword. No, no, no. Su Shi declined hurriedly and said, Exalted Immortal Su, you helped us tide through this calamity earlier on. This iron sword should belong to you. Put it away. Su Zimo smiled and stuffed the iron sword into Su Xiaotian's hands. Although the iron sword was indeed a little strange, he would not take advantage of the situation. Brother Su. Su Xiaotian had been silent earlier on. Now, he finally mustered his courage and clenched his fists, saying with a trembling voice. However, he suddenly felt that his manner of addressing was inappropriate and changed it hurriedly. Mr. Su, can you take me in as your disciple? Su Zimo remained silent. It was fate that they were reunited here. However, it was not to the point where he was tempted to take in a disciple. Furthermore, he had many enemies in the upper world and it might not be a good thing for someone to become his disciple. If you don't want me as a disciple, I can do chores. It's fine as long as I can stay by your side, mister. Su Xiaotian continued hurriedly, looking at Su Zimo nervously and expectantly. I'm afraid that won't do. Su Zimo shook his head gently. Su Xiaotian's expression darkened. At the side, Princess Scarlet Rainbow explained, We're only outer sect disciples in Heaven and Earth Academy. We're not qualified to bring our own servants into the academy. Don't be discouraged. When Su Zimo saw that Su Xiaotian was a little disappointed, he consoled him. There's no need for you to be a servant. If your cultivation is high enough, you can take part in the immortal sect selection that happens once every 100 years. There's a chance for you to become a true disciple of the academy. Chapter 2189. 2189 Reincarnated Immortals. 2189 Reincarnated Immortals. The immortal sect selection was almost the fairest opportunity for cultivators of Divine Firmament mainland to change their lives. No matter where one was from previously, as long as they could pass the immortal sect selection and join the 4 immortal sects, they would only have a single identity from then on, a disciple of an immortal sect. Even the outer sect disciples of the 4 immortal sects were superior to other cultivators of the same cultivation realm everywhere in Divine Firmament mainland. However, how difficult was it to pass the immortal sect selection? Only 100 people would be selected for the immortal sect selection that was held once every 100 years. This meant that on average, only one Earth immortal of Divine Firmament mainland was qualified to join the 4 immortal sects every year. Su Shi was getting older and no longer had his drive. His future accomplishments were limited. In Su Xiaotian's eyes, Su Zimo could see a vigor and a desire for strength, just like himself in Pingyang town back then. However, Water Cloud Sword Sect was only a black grade sect and had limited cultivation resources. Even if Su Xiaotian had that temperament and talent, it would be difficult for him to stand out in an environment where resources were scarce. Su Zimo sighed internally. He had another layer of worry. This time round, Su Shi and Su Xiaotian had a conflict with the major immortal Dao clan, the Xue clan. Because of him, the two of them were saved. However, both parties had already formed grudges. No matter how bold the Xue clan was, they would not dare to cause trouble for him casually. However, there was a high chance that the Xue clan would take revenge on Su Xiaotian and Su Shi. There was a high chance that this would be a calamity for the father and son. There was no way Water Cloud Sword Sect could protect the two of them. Su Zimo fell into deep thought in silence. If the two of you don't mind, you can follow me and start as an ordinary guard.
Unknowingly, Xie Qingcheng had arrived beside Su Zimo and smiled at Su Shi and Su Xiaotian. Even towards Su Shi and Su Xiaotian, there was no arrogance or contempt in Xie Qingcheng's eyes, and he had a calm expression. Prince Qingcheng, you. Su Zimo was shocked. Xie Qingcheng smiled at Su Zimo and nodded. Su Zimo did not say anything. The prince seemed to have already seen through his difficulties, and his decision was also to help him resolve this matter. Xie Qingcheng said, "The ordinary guards at my side will naturally gain much better cultivation resources than anyone in black grade sections. As long as you're talented enough, you'll have a chance to be my personal guard in the future." Su Shi and Su Xiaotian were stunned on the spot and could not recover for a moment. The beautiful prince before them was truly out of reach for the two of them. The difference in status between them was too great. Both of them could not believe it when they heard that invitation. The two of them looked towards Su Zimo instinctively. Su Zimo nodded. It was naturally the best place to be by Xie Qingcheng's side. Cultivation resources were only one of the reasons. More importantly, Su Shi and Su Xiaotian were safe by Xie Qingcheng's side. At the very least, they no longer had to fear the Xue clan. "Thank you, Your Highness." Su Shi hurriedly pulled Su Xiaotian and knelt down towards Xie Qingcheng. "There's no need." Before the two of them knelt down, Xie Qingcheng waved his sleeves and released an invisible force that lifted them up. "I'll have someone send a letter to Water Cloud Sword Sect later to report this matter. Don't worry about this." Su Shi and Su Xiaotian were flattered. The two of them bowed to Su Zimo gratefully. Both of them could tell that if not for Su Zimo, Xie Qingcheng would definitely not take them in. "Thank you, Your Highness." Su Zimo looked at Xie Qingcheng and cupped his fists in thanks as well. Xie Qingcheng shook his head and smiled. "It's nothing much, don't worry. I'm just a prince with no power. If they have a better place to go in the future, they can leave at any time." Su Zimo lamented. There were decent people in the upper world as well. Although Xie Qingcheng helped him, he did not try to get anything out of it or even give Su Shi and Su Xiaotian any pressure. "Bring them back and make arrangements." Xie Qingcheng instructed the two guards behind him. "Fellow Taoists, this way." The two guards left with Su Shi and Su Xiaotian. Right then, a complicated secret cultivation technique appeared in Su Shi and Su Xiaotian's minds. Immediately after, Su Zimo's voice sounded in their minds. "I obtained the divine elephant breathing technique after killing a paragon. This cultivation technique is extremely domineering and ferocious. When cultivated to its limits, it's not weaker than many top cultivation techniques of the upper world. As for how far you guys can cultivate this cultivation technique, that will depend on your own fate and talent. In addition, this cultivation technique must not be leaked after you cultivate it." Su Shi and Su Xiaotian shuddered and looked at Su Zimo instinctively. At that moment, Su Zimo had already followed everyone from the academy and left with Xie Qingcheng, leaving only his back view. Su Shi and his son exchanged grateful glances. On the other side, in Su Zimo's opinion, it was fate that he was able to reunite with Su Shi and his son here. He could not take Su Xiaotian in as his disciple, nor could he keep the two of them by his side to enter the academy together. As such, he imparted the divine elephant breathing technique to the two of them as compensation. The cultivation techniques he cultivated were complicated, but there were many that were inconvenient to impart and might not be suitable for the two of them to cultivate. This divine elephant breathing technique was the most suitable. If the two of them could cultivate this cultivation technique to greater mastery, they would be able to stand out among the many guards. Up till now, Su Zimo still remembered the monster incarnate, Fang, who cultivated the divine elephant breathing technique. Back in the Emperor's tomb, with this cultivation technique, Fang even managed to escape from Yun Ting's human-slaying sword Qi. In the end, it was also because of the combined attack of Su Zimo, Yun Ting and Feng Zi that he was killed on the spot. If not for that, it would have taken Su Zimo some effort to suppress him. "Brother, how many people from the academy are in the top 10 of the Earth ranking this time round? What are my senior brother Yi Fei's and Su Zimo's rankings?" Along the way, Princess Scarlet Rainbow asked. Yi Fei was the #1 of Heaven and Earth Academy's outer sect competition this time round. Before the fight for the Earth ranking began, Someone had already ranked the rough rankings for many cultivators to read. The fight for the Earth ranking this time round was way too intense, and Heaven and Earth Academy did not have much of an advantage this time round. Xie Qingcheng shook her head gently. There are no Academy disciples in the top 10. What? That's impossible. Princess Scarlet Rainbow's face was filled with doubt as she grumbled. Who made up that ranking? How can there be no one from the Academy in the top 10? On the other hand, Elder Zhong of the Academy was extremely calm. According to the news I received, there are indeed some monster incarnates among the Earth Immortals fighting for the Earth ranking this time round. Yi Fei might not be able to squeeze into the top 10. The Academy has already expected that. You guys don't have to feel pressured. Just compete normally. I don't believe you. Princess Scarlet Rainbow pouted and asked, who is the number 1 this time round? Xie Qingcheng said, the top 2 of the Earth ranking this time round are almost certain. It's just a matter of who is first and second. Ting isn't taking part either. Who can be so powerful? Princess Scarlet Rainbow asked indignantly. Xie Qingcheng smiled. Even Ting might not be able to get first place. That's because both of them are reincarnated immortals. Chapter 2190. 2190 Earth Ranking. 2190 Earth Ranking. Reincarnated Immortals. Those words possessed a shuddering magic. Princess Scarlet Rainbow no longer said anything, and the crowd accompanying her suddenly fell silent. From the martial Dao Prime Body, Su Zimo learned that if one wanted to be reborn, they would at least have to be at the Hollow Nether Perfected One realm. Otherwise, if they died, their souls would dissipate and they would enter the cycle of reincarnation. It was unknown what living beings they would become in the future, or which world they would be born in. In fact, they might even be reincarnated into minor chiliocosms and turn into livestock. Even if they were lucky and had a decent background, it meant that their past selves had vanished. However, perfected immortals who cultivated to the Hollow Netherrealm could be reborn with the imprint of their previous lives and had a high chance of being reborn in the world of their previous lives. If they were guided by an expert of their previous lives, they could even rejoin their sections. By the time they cultivated to the perfected One realm again, they would be able to recover memories of their previous lives. Xie Qingcheng continued. The reincarnated immortal of Flying Immortal Sect's Dao title is Tai Hua. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, he was originally a legacy disciple of Flying Immortal Sect. In this generation, he was guided by the sect master of Flying Immortal Sect. Upon his reincarnation, he joined Flying Immortal Sect again, and his Dao title remains unchanged. The other reincarnated immortal's Dao title is Feng Yin, and he's from Imperial Wind Temple. It's said that he was once in the top 10 of the perfected immortal ranking at the 9 Firmament meet back then. When he reincarnated this time round, he was guided by an elder of Imperial Wind Temple and re-entered the sect. Even if there's no fight for the top 2 spots, what about the other 8 spots in the top 10? Are they all so strong? Princess Scarlet Rainbow said in a serious manner. Brother Qingcheng, let me tell you. Although my cultivation realm hasn't changed after cultivating in the academy all these years, my combat strength has increased significantly. This is the ranking of the Earth ranking predicted by the palace. You guys can take a look. Xie Qingcheng flipped his fair palm and hurled them a bamboo scroll. Junior sister Scarlet Rainbow, make a copy for me as well. Yi Fei was curious and asked for it as well. Princess Scarlet Rainbow said, don't worry, I'll print a copy for everyone. Let's take a look so that we can prepare in advance. As she said that, Princess Scarlet Rainbow placed the bamboo scroll on her glabella and made copies with her spirit consciousness. Before long, dozens of copies were printed and distributed to everyone in the academy. Brother Su, why don't you take a look too? Xie Qingcheng said. This bamboo scroll was compiled by specialized cultivators in the palace. It contains many paragons of the Earth ranking this time round and many important information. It will be of some use to you guys. Su Zimo expressed his thanks and received the bamboo scroll. The bamboo scroll was made from 100 thin bamboo plates. There was only a Dao title written on the first bamboo plate, Feng Yin. When Su Zimo injected his spirit consciousness into the bamboo plate, an even larger image appeared in his mind with a few lines of words recorded. Name Feng Yin. Level: Grade 9 Earth Immortal. Battle Record. Evaluation. Identity: Reincarnated Immortal of Imperial Wind Temple. Apart from his name and identity, the rest of the titles were blank without any information. Right then, Xie Qingcheng's voice sounded. Tai Hua and Feng Yin have barely appeared in Divine Firmament mainland after their reincarnations. They've been cultivating in seclusion the entire time. This is the first time the two of them have appeared at such a grand event. Therefore, there's not much information about the two of them. After Su Zimo's spirit consciousness entered the second bamboo plate, the information within was indeed similar to Feng Yin's. Apart from his name and identity, everything else was empty. The order of the bamboo plates on the bamboo scroll was from left to right according to the order of 1 to 100. There was no useful information about Feng Yin and Tai Hua. Their mere identities as reincarnated immortals was enough to rank them as the top 2 of the Earth ranking. The terror of reincarnated immortals lay in their memories of their previous lives. Although their cultivation realms were insufficient and they had not recovered all their memories of their previous lives, it was already terrifying enough for them to only recover a portion of their memories. As they cultivated continuously and traced back the path of their previous lives, the number of memories they awaken would increase. Although both of them were Grade 9 Earth Immortals, they possessed the memories of perfected immortals and combat experience. Those were the most terrifying. Su Zimo continued browsing. The Earth Immortal on the third bamboo plate was Yu Feng, a Grade 9 Earth Immortal from Mountain Sea Immortal Sect. There were hundreds of words written in the column of his battle record and the evaluation of him was extremely high as well. According to the compiler, if not for the two reincarnated immortals, Tai Hua and Feng Yin, Yu Feng would most likely be the top of the Earth ranking this time round. The 4th to 10th places came from the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, Flying Immortal Sect, Mountain Sea Immortal Sect, Yen Yang Immortal Kingdom, Imperial Wind Temple, Xian Immortal Kingdom and a paragon from the major immortal Dao clan, Pang clan. The 11th was Yi Fei of Heaven and Earth Academy, the number 1 of the outer sect competition. Yun Lei's ranking in the immortal sect selection was clearly inferior to mine. How can he be ranked in the top 10? Princess Scarlet Rainbow asked with a frown. Although Prince Yun Lei was from the Xian Immortal Kingdom, he was representing Mountain Sea Immortal Sect this time round and was ranked 6th on this ranking. Xie Qingcheng said, "Your movement technique is faster than his and you will have an advantage in the ranking of the 9 heavens. However, you might not be his match in the final ranking battle." Su Zimo swept his gaze and saw the name of Princess Scarlet Rainbow on the 18th bamboo plate. Name: Scarlet Rainbow. Level: Grade 9 Earth Immortal. Battle record: when she was a Grade 8 Earth Immortal, she crossed a minor realm and killed a Grade 9 Earth Immortal. When she was a Grade 9 Earth Immortal, she shocked everyone in the royal family competition of the Yen Yang Immortal Kingdom. However, she lost to Prince Qingyun in the end. She was ranked 2nd in the Immortal Sect selection 1,000 years ago. Evaluation: among the Earth Immortals, the speed of her movement technique is enough to be ranked in the top 3. Among the 9 heavens, she can be ranked in the top 10. However, in a head-on fight, her combat strength is definitely inferior. Identity: Outer Sect Disciple of Heaven and Earth Academy, Princess of the Yen Yang Immortal Kingdom. The evaluation of the bamboo scroll was not much different from what Xie Qingcheng had said. It seemed like they had spent a lot of effort to collect information of the paragons on the Earth ranking. However, Su Zimo did not know what the 9 heavens mentioned by Xie Qingcheng and the Earth ranking were. Su Zimo was curious as to whether he was included in the Earth ranking and what ranking he was. He scanned the bamboo scroll and stopped in the middle. The 49th bamboo plate. Name: Su Zimo. Level: Grade 8 Earth Immortal. Battle record: in the Immortal Sect selection 1,000 years ago, he revealed his prowess and killed more than 100 Earth execution guards of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. He offended Prince Yuanzhua and even alarmed 2 of the 4 great fairies, the Zither Immortal and the Painting Immortal, causing them to nearly fight. Eventually placed 1st in the Immortal Sect selection. Evaluation: expert in some terrifying flame immortal art and even mastered a movement technique similar to teleportation. His physique is strong but his bloodline is ordinary. He can kill strong foes above his level and cultivated the human-slaying sword art and exalted mystic spirit Big Dipper True Sutra. There's not much information about his previous achievements and it's difficult to judge from a single immortal sect selection. Furthermore, his cultivation realm is too low and he's the only grade 8 Earth immortal on the Earth ranking. This might become his weakness in the Earth ranking competition, and he'll be ranked in the top 50 for the time being. Identity: Outer Sect Disciple of Heaven and Earth Academy, from the lower world. At that point, Su Zimo smiled. To think that the compiler had gathered quite a bit of information about him. However, back when he fled in the Great Qin Immortal Kingdom, almost no one paid attention to him and naturally did not know of his past achievements. Chapter 2191. 2191 Appearance of Yun Ting. 2191 Appearance of Yun Ting. Previously, Su Zimo caused a huge stir in Green Cloud County, and was even hunted down by the entire Great Qin Immortal Kingdom. However, that was only limited to the Great Qin Immortal Kingdom.
Most of the factions and cultivators of Divine Firmament mainland had never heard of him, let alone paid attention to him. The Battle of the Immortal Sect Selection was his first time entering the line of sight of the upper echelons of Divine Firmament mainland.
Actually, the Immortal Sect Selection was held once every 100 years. Even the number one of the selection might not attract much attention. However, there were way too many unforeseen circumstances during the Immortal Sect Selection 1,000 years ago. It caused quite a stir and even alarmed two fairies, allowing Su Zimo to stand out. Of course, for the supreme cultivators of Divine Firmament mainland, everyone was more concerned about the appearance of the Zither and Painting Immortals and the rumors of the Painting Immortal. When everyone heard that Su Zimo was the number one of the Immortal Sect Selection and killed more than 100 Earth Execution Guards, they merely exclaimed and forgot about it quickly. After 1,000 years, the impact of this battle decreased. The fact that Su Zimo was ranked in the top 50 of this Earth ranking was already a subject of many controversies and doubt. Princess Scarlet Rainbow noticed the ranking as well and pouted her lips with a smile. Let's not talk about the rankings of the other cultivators first. Junior brother Su's ranking is definitely not accurate. Are you so sure? Xie Qingcheng smiled and asked. Princess Scarlet Rainbow pointed to the two names on the bamboo scroll and said, Do Yuan, who is ranked 23, was knocked back by a single punch from junior brother Su. Shui Yuan, who is ranked 5-7, was crippled by a single palm strike from junior brother Su as well. I reckon that Shui Yuan might not be able to recover to his original state by the time the fight for the Earth ranking begin. Oh! Xie Qingcheng was slightly surprised. So, Shui Yuan was injured by brother Su. He arrived slightly later and only saw everyone from the Shui clan escorting the injured Shui Yuan away. However, he did not know that Su Zimo was the one who caused it. In that case, Brother Su's ranking should indeed be slightly higher. Xie Qingcheng nodded. Princess Scarlet Rainbow said, In my opinion, Junior Brother Su's combat strength is definitely above mine. He should be ranked in the top 10 or even top 5. Xie Qingcheng smiled without saying anything. Although he did not agree with it, he did not refute. Princess Scarlet Rainbow pointed to the fourth bamboo plate and said, Look at the identity of Tai Han, who is ranked 4th. He's only a commander of the Earth Execution Guards. Junior Brother Su destroyed the Earth Execution Guards so badly back then. In my opinion, this great commander is nothing much too. Su Zimo noticed that person as well. Name Tai Han. Level: Grade 9 Earth Immortal. Battle record: ever since he was a Grade 7 Earth Immortal, he was the top of the Earth Execution Guards and that position did not change for 50,000 years. Evaluation: this person's physique and bloodline are top-notch. It's said that his physique is comparable to a perfect grade dermic treasure. He rarely appears and doesn't attack often. He's the sharpest saber among the Earth Execution Guards and is the number one of the Earth Guards for 50,000 years. That's enough to prove how terrifying this person is. Identity: Great Commander of the Great Qin Immortal Kingdom's Earth Execution Guards. According to the bamboo scroll, this person was rather capable. This person's battle records were not detailed. However, the more that was the case, the more it proved how terrifying this person was. Nobody knew what other tricks he was hiding. After Princess Scarlet Rainbow said that, Xie Qingcheng looked at Su Zimo and pondered for a moment before reminding, Brother Su, you can't be careless. Su Zimo nodded. Even without Xie Qingcheng's reminder, he would have kept an eye on this person.
He had killed more than 100 Earth execution guards before, but that did not mean that there were no top experts among them.
Prince Yuan's had already lost his power.
Although he could mobilize the Earth execution guards, given his status and power, the Earth execution guards at his side were definitely not the best. Although there were only 100 spots on the bamboo scroll, Earth Immortals from the Great Qin Immortal Kingdom took up 10 spots. They were all Earth execution guards.
After reading it, Yi Fei smiled bitterly and shook his head. The fight for the Earth ranking this time round is indeed a little intense. It's much more difficult than I imagined. It's difficult to get into the top 10 of the Earth ranking.
There's no need to feel dejected,
Xie Qingcheng said. Although there are no Academy disciples in the top 10 of the Earth ranking, there are 17 Academy disciples in the 100 spots of the Earth ranking. That's a huge number. Elder Zhong and Elder He only felt relieved when they noticed that as well. At the very least, Heaven and Earth Academy was not disadvantaged overall. Xie Qingcheng continued, furthermore, the ranking on the bamboo scroll is only a prediction. In the end, it still depends on the Earth ranking competition 3 days later. By now, everyone had already arrived at the palace. After the banquet, they dispersed and rested, preparing for the fight for the Earth ranking 3 days later. Actually, the 10,000-year meet had already begun and the capital was bustling. For the past 3 days, various major factions arrived at the capital of the Yanyang Immortal Kingdom one after another and appeared. Among them, the most eye-catching group was from the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom. The leader of the group this time round was the #1 monster incarnate in 100,000 years, Prince Yun Ting. Ever since Prince Yun Ting swept through the Earth Immortal experts of the major factions more than 1,000 years ago, he had barely appeared and had been cultivating in seclusion. After coming out of seclusion, Yun Ting was already at the level 2 Heaven Essence realm. Even with Yun Ting's talent and cultivation speed, his speed slowed down after breaking through to the Heaven Essence realm. In 1,000 years, he had only advanced by 1 realm. Of course, that was an unimaginable cultivation speed for others. For most cultivators, it was extremely common for them to spend 10,000 years cultivating in the Heaven Essence realm to break through. Prince Yun Ting is already a Grade 2 Heaven Immortal. What is he doing at the 10,000-year meet? I'm not sure. That lad has a brash personality and is arrogant and conceited. He might be up to something shocking. You guys don't know yet, right? There's an Earth Immortal named Su Zimo in Heaven and Earth Academy, who cultivated the heaven-slaying sword art. I reckon that Prince Yun Ting must be here because of this person. Some cultivators analyzed calmly. What is Prince Yun Ting trying to do? Is he trying to snatch the sword art in public? Heaven and Earth Academy has Heaven Immortal Elders with them as well. There's no way they would let him do that. Prince Yun Ting has never been restrained in his actions. I won't even be surprised if he attacked Su Zimo in public to snatch the sword art. Speaking of Su Zimo of Heaven and Earth Academy, I also recalled something. The Great Qin Immortal Kingdom group was led by Prince Yuan Zhua this time round. I heard that he has a deep feud with Su Zimo. I heard that 1,000 years ago, this person even offended the Zither Immortal. Do you guys think the Zither Immortal will appear this time round? Dream on. What sort of characters are the 4 great fairies? All of them are peerless and are perfected immortals. Why would they come to watch the fight for the Earth ranking? I heard that the 4 great fairies might gather at the Divine Firmament Immortal Meet. That will be the true top-tier Immortal Dao event in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. As the 3 Immortal Kingdoms, 4 Immortal Sects, major Immortal Dao clans and factions of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain gathered, the main event of the 10,000-year meet gradually began. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The Earth ranking competition officially began today. Chapter 2192. 2192 We meet again. 2192 We meet again. Yanyang Immortal Kingdom. The sun had just risen and cultivators from all over Divine Firmament mainland had already arrived at the gigantic square in front of the palace. It was densely packed with people. A spacious path opened up in the middle of the square, extending all the way to the main hall. On both sides of the path were the areas where the major sects, factions and cultivators gathered. In front of the hall was the host of this event, the location of the Yanyang Immortal Kingdom. On its left and right were the other 2 Immortal Kingdoms. Beneath the two immortal kingdoms were the four immortal sections. Heaven and Earth Academy and Mountain Sea Immortal Sect were next to one another. Opposite them were Imperial Wind Temple and Flying Immortal Sect. Beneath the two immortal kingdoms and four immortal sects were the major aristocratic families of the Immortal Dao and Quasi-Heaven Grade immortal sections. The ones at the front were all Heaven Grade and Quasi-Heaven Grade sections. Behind those immortal sects were Earth and Quasi-Earth Grade sections. After that were Black Grade sections. At the back were itinerant cultivators from all over the divine firmament immortal domain. There were no seats, immortal peaches, spirit fruits, fragrant tea or desserts for them. They were naturally treated much worse than everyone else. At that moment, many cultivators of Black, Earth and Quasi-Heaven Grade sects were already present, leaving only the three immortal kingdoms and four immortal sections. Look over there. People from the three immortal kingdoms have appeared at the same time. Someone shouted from the crowd, attracting the attention of many cultivators. In midair, three groups of cultivators descended slowly from outside the square. The master of the palace was in the middle, and the group from the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom was rather massive. Their leader was the second prince of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom, Prince Xie Ling, a perfected immortal expert and the person in charge of this 10,000-year meet. Behind him were some descendants of the royal family as well as Prince Qingyun, who was predicted to be 7th on the Earth ranking. In the fight between the royal family back then, Xie Yun even defeated Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Prince Yun Ting is here. Where? The sharpest one. A clamor broke out in the crowd. Although Xie Ling was a perfected immortal and the person in charge of this 10,000-year meet, he did not attract much attention. When the three immortal kingdoms entered at the same time, most of the cultivators were attracted by the young man leading the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom and exclaimed, "This person was way too sharp." Some people felt their eyes sting just by staring at him for a little longer. There was no lack of paragons and monster incarnates in the camps of the three immortal kingdoms. For example, Prince Yuanzhua, who led the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, the great commander of the Earth Execution Guards, Tai Han, who was predicted to be 4th on the Earth ranking, as well as Prince Yunlei, who was predicted to be 6th. Any one of them would attract attention. However, they were traveling with Yun Ting and none of them could overshadow his sharpness. No matter where it was, as long as Yun Ting appeared, his sharpness would be noticed unconsciously and no one could ignore it. Fellow Taoist Yun Ting, I heard that you're here for Su Zimo of Heaven and Earth Academy. Right then, Prince Yuanzhua turned around and asked in a testing manner, "Do you have any grudges with this person?" "We fought once." Yun Ting replied indifferently without looking at Prince Yuanzhua. Although Prince Yuanzhua was a grade 9 heaven immortal and had a superior cultivation realm, Yun Ting was not interested. When he saw how arrogant and rude Yun Ting was, a hint of anger first rose in Prince Yuanzhua's eyes before disappearing quickly. He began to rejoice internally. Su Zimo, to think that a lowlife like would offend Yun Ting as well. All the better, the heavens really want you dead. Prince Yuanzhua sneered internally and thought to himself, 1,000 years ago, you embarrassed me completely. This time round, I'm going to let you die without a full corpse in front of even more people. Initially, Prince Yuanzhua was not sure if Yun Ting was here because of Su Zimo. However, he was relieved when he saw Yun Ting's attitude earlier on. During this period of time, the cultivators of the three immortal kingdoms had already taken their seats. Look, people from the four immortal sects have arrived as well. Another exclamation sounded as four groups of cultivators descended from midair side by side. Which of them are the reincarnated immortals? Who are Tai Hua and Feng Yin? The Earth ranking predicted by the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom had long spread among many cultivators. The two reincarnated immortals attracted the most attention. See that? In Flying Immortal Sect, the person walking side by side with Heaven Immortal White Sea is Immortal Tai Hua. On the side of Imperial Wind Temple, the person standing at the front alongside Heaven Immortal Green Peak is Immortal Feng Yin. Immortal Tai Hua wore a Taoist robe and a long sword hung on his waist. His sleeves fluttered and he had an indifferent expression and extraordinary aura. Compared to the grade 9 Heaven Immortal White Sea, his aura was not inferior at all. Feng Yin had a cold expression and wore black robes. Hands behind his back, he exuded a cold and sinister aura that made one shudder. Although the two of them were only grade 9 Earth Immortals, The fact that they could walk shoulder to shoulder with two top-tier heaven immortals was proof of their status in the sect. The leader of Mountain Sea Immortal sect seems to be the #1 of the upper world's heaven ranking. It's indeed him, Heaven Abyss. He was one of the hosts of the Immortal sect selection 1,000 years ago. Apart from the two reincarnated immortals, Heaven Abyss's appearance attracted many gazes as well. Compared to Flying Immortal sect, Imperial Wind Temple and Mountain Sea Immortal sect, Heaven and Earth Academy was slightly inferior. Heaven and Earth Academy was led by a few elders, and the disciples of the academy behind them seemed ordinary compared to the other three immortal sections. Su Zimo had green robes, black hair and refined features. He was inconspicuous in the academy's group and no one noticed him. His gaze swept in the direction of the three immortal sections. The leaders of the three immortal sects this time round were relatively familiar and he had met once. At the immortal sect selection, the three of them represented their respective sections. Everyone from the four immortal sects descended and were about to take their seats. Just as everyone's attention was attracted by the two reincarnated immortals, Heaven Abyss and the others, a figure suddenly stood up in the direction of the Xian Immortal Kingdom. Clang! As that person stood up, a shuddering sword hum sounded in the world. Immediately after, a sharp beam surged into the skies, as though it wanted to penetrate the firmaments and slash down the stars. The surrounding temperature seemed to have dipped significantly and it was chilling. The expressions of the two reincarnated immortals, Feng Yin and Tai Hua, changed slightly as they turned to look. Prince Yun Ting. Only Prince Yun Ting could release such a terrifying sharpness with every single move. When Yun Ting stood up, everyone's attention was attracted immediately. Many cultivators could sense that apart from sharpness, there was also an extremely strong fighting spirit in Yun Ting. What is Prince Yun Ting trying to do? Many cultivators followed Prince Yun Ting's gaze. It seemed to be the direction of Heaven and Earth Academy. Su Zimo, we meet again. Right then, Yun Ting's eyes lit up as he spoke slowly. Every single word was as powerful as metal clashing. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Instantly, the scholarly green-robed cultivator with no presence in the academy attracted countless gazes. Chapter 2193. 2193 Joining Forces. 2193 Joining Forces. Who is he? How did he attract Yun Ting's attention? A disciple of the academy, a grade 8 Earth Immortal, actually made Yun Ting stand up to greet him. Everyone had long heard of Yun Ting's personality. He was proud, conceited and arrogant. When they entered earlier on, even the perfected immortal Prince Xie Ling had a friendly expression as he surveyed his surroundings and nodded slightly. When Yun Ting appeared, he looked ahead the entire time without looking at anyone. His attitude towards Prince Yuanzhua was cold as well. But now, this academy disciple had caused Prince Yun Ting to stand up on his own accord. The fact that he was so highly regarded shocked many cultivators. Haven't you heard? That person is Su Zimo from the lower worlds and he has the heaven-slaying sword art. Prince Yun Ting is here for this person's heaven-slaying sword art. That's right. The fighting spirit in Prince Yun Ting's eyes can't be hidden at all. In fact, I suspect that he can attack at any moment. Many cultivators discussed and whispered at the back. Because of Yun Ting's actions and a single sentence, the entire square became tense. Everyone knew that Yun Ting did whatever he wanted and had always made shocking moves fearlessly. Even if he suddenly attacked Su Zimo, no one would be surprised. Prince Xie Ling frowned slightly. The fight for the Earth ranking had yet to begin and he naturally did not wish for anything to happen. Prince Yuan's was sat in his seat with a gloating look in his eyes. If Yun Ting could kill Su Zimo, it would save him a lot of trouble. The elders of the academy looked as though they were facing a great enemy. Prince Yun Ting, what are you doing? Elder Zhong said in a deep voice, the fight for the Earth ranking has yet to begin. Furthermore, you're already a grade 2 Heaven Immortal and can't take part in the Earth ranking competition. Princess Scarlet Rainbow had not returned home for a long time. At that moment, she was sitting with Xie Qingcheng and the other descendants of the royal family. When she saw that, she looked nervous as well. Among everyone from the academy, Su Zimo was the only one who was calm as usual.
Even against Yun Ting, who was releasing immense hostility and in front of everyone's gazes, his expression did not change much. He did not know why Yun Ting was here. However, he was certain that Yun Ting would definitely not attack him at this moment. He had only exchanged blows with Yun Ting once and the two of them did not have much interaction. However, he knew that given Yun Ting's pride, the latter would definitely not attack him when there was a major cultivation realm difference between them. Back in the Emperor's tomb, Yun Ting was disgusted when Fang Xian tried to ambush Su Zimo while the two of them were fighting. Given his conceit, he would definitely choose to fight Su Zimo fairly if he wanted to snatch the heaven and earth slaying sword arts. Su Zimo pushed away the elders gently and stood at the front, standing off against Yun Ting through the air.
Su Zimo, you. Elder Zhong was worried. There was no longer any obstruction between Su Zimo and Yun Ting. If Yun Ting suddenly attacked, even he did not have absolute confidence of protecting Su Zimo. It's fine. Su Zimo shook his head gently and smiled. We're just greeting one another and exchanging a few words. When he heard that, Yun Ting's eyes lit up. Su Zimo understood him. Everyone thought that he might make a move. However, the person opposite him knew that he would definitely not attack here. The two of them had the same silent chemistry back in the Emperor's tomb when Fang Xian ambushed Su Zimo. For some reason, Yun Ting was delighted. Once I defeat him in the future and obtain the heaven and earth slaying sword arts, we might even be able to become confidants. Yun Ting thought to himself.
In his eyes, not many cultivators of the same generation in this world were qualified to be his friends, let alone confidants.
Yun Ting, it's been many years since we last met.
You're still as arrogant as ever and haven't changed much.
Right then, Su Zimo said indifferently. The moment he said that, everyone was stunned and the discussions quietened down. Many cultivators were dumbfounded as they looked at Su Zimo in shock. What sort of words and tone were those? Was this grade 8 Earth Immortal of the Academy lecturing the #1 monster incarnate in 100,000 years, Prince Yun Ting? Prince Yun Ting's expression darkened instantly as well. That was because Su Zimo's words reminded him of the battle at the Emperor's tomb. In that battle, Su Zimo once said something similar such as, "You're still young." Right on the heels of that, that person beat him up so badly that he nearly lost his life. After returning to the Xian Immortal Kingdom, he was even taught a lesson by his sister. Each time he recalled that experience, he felt extremely displeased. Prince Yun Ting's expression turned cold and his aura intensified.
His eyes shone with killing intent as he said icily, "Don't speak to me in that tone.
I don't like it." In Yun Ting's heart, only his sister could lecture him like this. No one else was qualified. Right then, Prince Yuan's suddenly stood up and hollered, "Su Zimo, you're way too arrogant. How dare you lecture Prince Yun Ting?" Prince Yun Ting is the strongest paragon in the divine firmament immortal domain for the past 100,000 years. How can a lowlife like you look down on and humiliate him in front of everyone? Although Prince Yuan's looked righteous, he was actually fanning the flames, wanting to provoke Prince Yun Ting to kill Su Zimo right away. Yun Ting turned around and glanced at Prince Yuan's expressionlessly. He was young and arrogant, but he was no fool. The person in charge of the 10,000-year meet this time round, Prince Xie Ling, saw that the situation was bad and the atmosphere was getting increasingly tense. At that moment, he had no choice but to stand out and raise his voice. "Fellow Taoists, please take a seat. Today is the Earth Ranking competition. If there are any grudges, we can discuss them after the Earth Ranking competition." "Sure." Unexpectedly, the fighting spirit and killing intent of Prince Yun Ting dissipated rapidly. He agreed right away and sat back down. Helpless, Prince Yuanzhua could only return to his seat.
After this small commotion, the cultivators of the 4 immortal sects took their seats one after another. The fight for the Earth Ranking was about to begin.
Prince Yuanzhua looked at Prince Yun Ting opposite him indignantly. Rolling his eyes, he sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. "Fellow Taoist Yun Ting, today is the Earth Ranking competition. It's not convenient for you to kill Su Zimo personally. Why don't the Xian Immortal Kingdom join forces with the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom to kill this lad in the 9 heavens?" Yun Ting raised his head and looked at Prince Yuanzhua with a fake smile, as though he was very interested in his suggestion. Prince Yuanzhua was invigorated and continued to send a voice transmission. Fellow Taoist, don't worry. This time round, it's not only the great Jin Immortal Kingdom, but also fellow Taoists of Flying Immortal Sect. If the Xian Immortal Kingdom can join in, that lad will definitely die if our three factions join forces. The smile in Prince Yun Ting's eyes intensified. Ha 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 ha. Finally, Yun Ting reared his head in laughter that shook the firmaments and attracted the attention of countless people. Everyone was puzzled. Even Prince Yuanzhua was stunned on the spot, not knowing what was wrong with Yun Ting. Yun Ting turned around slowly and looked at Heaven and Earth Academy not far away from him, saying leisurely, Su Zimo, Prince Yuanzhua just told me that the great Jin Immortal Kingdom has already joined forces with Flying Immortal Sect. Their people are going to kill you in the 9 heavens. Right, Prince Yuanzhua even invited me to join forces with them. The moment he said that, the crowd was in an uproar.
Everyone from the academy was shocked as well as they glared in the direction of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom and Flying Immortal Sect.
Prince Yuanzhua was caught off guard. He had not expected that his secret voice transmission would be revealed by Prince Yun Ting in public. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.